evening. I want to call to order the regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission. It's Thursday, September 6, 2018 at 6 p.m. We're at the Carrabelle City Municipal Complex. I will ask Commissioner Cal Allen to please say the prayer, and we will, after that, say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, so all please stand.
Our God in heaven, we're so thankful that we can come together tonight on occasions such as this and deal with the things for this beautiful city you've given us. We ask you for their continued blessings on us, that we might work wisely and do the things that would be best for our citizens. We pray also for our country and the distress that's going on now, as well as the world. We have confidence that you rule in the kingdoms of men, as the prophet told Nebuchadnezzar so many years ago. Be with us tonight. Be with those that are sick and afflicted. And continue to be with those that are surviving the fire in our county. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Glad to see you all here. We have a full agenda tonight. And one item will be a presentation regarding the Carrabelle Airport, and right before that presentation begins, I'll call for a brief recess so we can all take a break and to allow the presenters to get set up. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. That's the August 2nd regular meeting minutes, August 14th special meeting minutes, August 28th special meeting minutes, and 2 streets and roads job descriptions and the attorney's invoices. Do we have any discussion on that? Or would like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the consent agenda by Commissioner Mathis
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then we have public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? All right, then we'll move on to the commissioners' reports. We have Commissioner Allen. Do you have anything, sir?
Just one thing. I've been talking with Chief Hunting, and we're working on a program to get the tombstones and the graveyard cleaned up a little bit. It's sort of got a little bit behind, and I didn't have time to write that up, but we have just briefly discussed it, and we haven't been able to get together, but it's certainly something that needs to be done since I'm commissioner of the fire department and the graveyard. That's him for report.
Okay.
And nothing for the fire department right now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mathis?
I have none.
All right. Commissioner Walden?
I have none.
And Commissioner Melander?
I'll pass.
All right, and I have one, and I'm going to try to make it short. But on August the 21st, Mary Louise Hester, the Regional Director for Senator Bill Nelson, toured the Carrabelle Airport to see recent infrastructure improvements. And she was accompanied by Tim Sullivan and myself. And this was a great opportunity for the airport because Senator Nelson is a member of the U.S. Senate Commerce Committee, and he can assist us with our efforts to get the Carrabelle Airport included in the FAA National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems, which would make the airport eligible to receive federal grants. And Ms. Hester took time out to tour downtown Carrabelle, including the world's smallest police station and the new City Hall construction site. So last month, the commission gave me permission to contact the ARPC for assistance with an application for a DEO technical assistance grant to complete our comp plan update. Mr. Fetchek reported to me that from 1990 to 2012, the DEO required a full evaluation and appraisal review every 7 years, but that's no longer the case. The city is due to provide the DEO with an EAR notification letter on April 1st, 2019. And so he advised me to contact the DEO planning staff for more detailed follow-up, and I did. And the DEO staff as well said our EAR notification letter is due by April the 19th. But the DEO no longer determines if comp plan updates are needed. The city itself must determine if updates are needed. to follow compliance with recent state statutes. So the city must send a letter to the DEO noting if comp plan amendments are or are not necessary. Now, one of those amendments, the Pearl of Flood statute of 2015, is a major statutory change, and that's related to the coastal management element study that's being addressed right now under the Resilient Franklin study and grant that's ongoing by the ARPC. So our city attorney, Dan, will need to research himself for us to determine if additional comp plan updates are required and exactly what would be included in that EAR notification letter. And so with all that being said, I would like to request a motion to direct the city attorney to conduct research on this issue and to communicate with the DEO staff. If we could have a motion for that, for the attorney to do those things.
Make a motion, we
Okay.
go forward with it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that motion carries. And then Mr. Fetchek, he's right now he's reviewing our comp plan element by element, and he's taking notes. He's going to present at our October meeting regarding the technical assistance grant, and he will need to communicate with the attorney to learn what updates are needed to be in compliance with statute. And then from the water and sewer side, I wanted to report to y'all that Charlie Painter has developed a form that will be used to keep a record on each water and sewer vehicle. And that will include mileage and a checklist for maintenance. His goal is to wash all the department vehicles every Friday. He's working on an additional item that will save the department some money, and he'll report on that at our tentative budget hearing. And he's already ordered now approximately, we talked about it at our water and sewer budget, he's ordered about 125 radio read water meters, and that by the next budget season, all residential meter needs should be replaced with new meters, and that will basically leave only commercial meters to be replaced. And so that's it for me. Thank you all. And then Commissioner, excuse me, City Attorney.
If I could ask just for some clarification,
Okay.
for my marching orders, is Richard Fetchek with ARPC. What I'll do is I'll follow up with him, and he's identifying overall in our comp plan what needs to be updated and the potential of getting some of that grant money in order to do our comp plan update.
Well,
Or just in a piecemeal.
and he's looking at it element by element, but I talked with Mark Yellen at the DEO, or communicated with him by email, and he sent me several links, statutes to look at. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you that information, and then if you need to talk with Mark Yellen or communicate whatever you need to do to develop that EAR letter.
Because we're probably we're behind on compliance with getting your updates, but we're coming up on the mandatory update, and it may be, especially if we get grant money, it would be ideal to get as much done. I mean, literally just get that 100. I mean, it was a big process when we went through it, and 11, 12 years ago. It was a controversial and big process. So if we're gonna, but I think since what I'm getting at is we don't want to have to do this process twice. So if we can get it done with grant money, is it all right if I talk to Richard about that?
Yes.
Get as much done as possible with this.
With
grant
me,
money.
it is. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to exceed my
I'll send you all the information, if that's all that I have. All right, and then for your report, sir.
Mayor, before you go any further,
Okay,
if I can,
yes.
I would like to say something to Charlie. Your report.
Oh, there he is. I didn't know Mr. Charlie was in
Yeah, your report that you just gave sound like good, positive accomplishments that Charlie's moving forward with, and we thank you for that. Sounds good.
there. Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Parker.
All right, on my report, I was asked to just talk about two issues. One regarding the city's ability to hire, call it contract, part-time, what's referred to at the state as OPS type positions. And in reviewing it and taking a look at it, the city has great latitude to hire basically on an as-needed basis, just like we do with the police department for events or when they're shorthanded, or water and sewer, where we have an operator out, we need someone to come in on typically a contract basis, but it could be hourly, it could be independent contractor, all that type of stuff. We have just broad flexibility to do that, as long as obviously we do handle the contracting of it and tax part of it correctly. So no problem there.
Okay.
And if anybody has questions, certainly you can talk to me. And the other one was, just quickly, basically there was a question on the reuse agreement out of St. James.
Yes, sir.
And the idea that it's possible that if anything changes ownership, which we know it has relatively recently, already about a year ago, that the rights, duties, obligations, that sort of stuff under the agreement are assignable assignable by us, but also by them. So paragraph 25 of the reuse agreement addresses assignability, and it's essentially fully assignable, and no one can get out of any. I mean, everybody's duties and obligations stay the same. As long as, and that's to do with reuse, so disposal of reuse water out of the golf course. They promise to be able to handle a certain amount of the reuse water that we produce at the plant. We aren't. I mean, I don't think any of it's something for the future. I mean, we're doing it now, but we probably don't have. I mean, we're selling it to the prison, and yeah, it's not a pressing issue, but it will be one in the future, I'm pretty sure.
Do you all have any questions for Mr. Hartman? Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
All right, we'll move on to the administrative report. Ms. Courtney?
As the mayor discussed in her report, earlier in the year, you know that we applied for a Florida Resilient Coastline funding through the ARPC, and that was for the update to the coastal management element of the comp plan. Well, now they're asking for us to do phase 2, which would be funded for fiscal year 18 and 19. It would also be a grant to the Florida Resilient Coastlines program, and it would target resilience strategies. So the goal in phase 2 would be to provide property owners, businesses, and city staff with information about sea level rise and its local effects to spur site and operations level responses. This grant's due tomorrow, so they've already filled out the application, it's ready to go. If you guys approve it, then we're ready to submit it. That's 100% grant funding. The city wouldn't pay anything.
Yeah, no local match. And they would actually pay the staff, or pay the city $1,500 to manage the little bit of paperwork. The application would go through the city instead of through the ARPC, but then they would manage the grant after that.
They do all the work.
Mm-hmm. And it would help translate assessments and policies into information and activities that residents and business owners can understand.
100% grant, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. So that motion is by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Matthews. Is there any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries.
During our budget meetings that we've had, we discussed opportunities for revenue opportunities. And two of the revenues that we discussed was collecting fees for notary fees and collecting building department fees for processing fees and for floodplain review fees. First on the notary fees, I looked into that. There is a maximum that you can charge. The maximum is $10 per notarial act. The bank here in town, they do it for $5. So if y'all want to proceed with putting that in place, Dan would have to draft up some sort of fee schedule, but we're getting a lot of notary.
Can I comment? Okay. And what brought that up to assist what Court was saying, and I noticed it, I'm in the office quite a bit, signing checks and what have you. There was a lot of demand coming into the front office for notary assistance. And at one time, due to common conversation, there was no one else in Carrabelle, like the county or the bank, that was offering that service. So the citizens were using our staff here to do that. And at one point, while I was here, it was quite an ordeal that morning. It was taking up a lot of staff time. And from my perspective as a business and the commissioners, and it's good to hear that the bank's going to start offering that service again for $5. We're a public business here, and we're getting, this business is not necessarily a notary business, it's a city operation. But if we're going to offer that service, I would suggest, is my feeling, is that we have a fee on it, do two things. It would be a small source of income, and to offset some of the work that our staff is doing, which is already has plenty to do. And also, if we offer free service, that means people are going to come in and they're not going to go somewhere else where they have to pay. So if we charge a fee, then they're less likely to come here and have a greater or higher demand on our staff. So I'll actually go ahead and make a motion that we incorporate a fee of $10 for notary use here at the City Hall.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Miller and a second by Commissioner Mathis to incorporate a notary fee of $10 per notarial act. Do we have discussion?
That was $10?
That's
You
what
want
he
to go
did.
at the maximum?
Yes.
I have one thing to
Okay.
add, just being over lawyerly here.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a notary, and I notarize a lot of stuff, and I don't want to be hypocrite either. I've had Miranda notarize things for me on 2 or 3 occasions, or Courtney. But thinking about it, if we literally notarize the stuff for the general public, something that I get hit up on a lot is insurance. They always want me to get insurance, and I don't, like the lawyer, you know.
We're all covered, all three of
It
us.
is covered. That's what I was saying, just to check with
All
our
three of
insurance
us
company
are
that
covered.
we're covered.
We're bonded.
We're bonded.
We're all
okay.
bonded.
And
And we're good.
And thank you, Dan, that's a very good point that we actually, Courtney and I had talked about, and I had forgotten about.
I've never
saying
seen anybody get in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, get sued as a notary, but they offer the insurance for a reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put the city at liability, I'd rather just not offer the service.
Right,
Yes.
right. But if we're bonded, we're good. We are insured, we're good.
All three of us.
That's great. Good to know.
And then, okay, so for discussion, I will say, are we sure we want to go with the maximum rate, $10? Are we sure of that?
I'd rather go for 5, max the other people.
And the bank, what are they going to be charging?
They're gonna be charging $5.
$5. No, I wouldn't want to charge $3 less than the bank, because then they would come here.
Well, maybe my idea of it is not from a money-making standpoint, as much as it is to kind of feed some of the business back over to the banks and take the load off of our staff. So that's my idea, it's not as much a moneymaker as it is to kind of steer the people back to the banks and away from the city.
I understand that. I do, and it makes good sense. Now let me ask the attorney, will this have to be done by ordinance?
I do not believe so.
Okay, if it had to be done by ordinance, I would want to make sure that you wouldn't be maybe possibly reducing the rate at some time. So if that's not needed, then I don't have a problem with the $10 fee this time. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor for, okay. Any opposed? All right, then that motion carries.
Building department fees, right now Franklin County gets 100% of the building department fees, and staff is doing most of the work, putting that stuff in the computer and talking to people when they come in. So we're proposing that there's a processing fee that goes with each permit. Now I've called around to several of the other building departments, and they don't have a processing fee per se, because they keep part of the fees that are collected. if the city of Apalachicola, who has EPCI, they collect all the money and then they turn around and they pay EPCI their portion and they retain a portion of that. So Keisha and I have been talking and we've came up with some numbers that we think would be fair. This is what we've came up with. $20 on a supplemental, $50 on a mobile home permit, $100 on a single family residential permit, $200 on a commercial permit. And then we also believe that we should charge the $50 floodplain review that the county already charges.
Okay, is there a comment on that?
And I can just, a supplemental is basically an electrical upgrade or something small. It's not as time consuming. When you're talking about building a single family residential home, a lot of site plan goes into it, there's a lot more work behind it. You know, you have to meet with them several times before they begin the process even. So that's kind of where we come from on the fees.
So a supplemental would be like an air conditioning? Or
Plumbing, roof, rewiring.
Okay.
And those permits typically run around $50, $70, so you don't want to charge a whole lot because the permit doesn't cost a whole lot.
Mr. Hartman, will there be an ordinance required to establish building permit fees?
I think a resolution will do it. If we just pass a resolution, Dante knows.
And that's what the county has, is a resolution on their fees.
And also, I recall when we went back to the county this time, we had a number of local contractors that were here in the audience that were making, or talking with us about it. They even mentioned us doing this. And that they would be happy to pay an additional processing fee was the word they used. And I think staff is on track. That's just my opinion as a commissioner.
And with these fees and the low rate that the county charges for permit fees, still lower than the EPCI services,
Correct.
the contract services that we have.
Correct.
It's just, the input in the computer's not the difficult part. It's the meeting for an hour, going over site plans and flood reviews and then meeting, you know, talking on the telephone and that, especially with the new residential homes or commercial building, it gets pretty time consuming. And we're carrying the load.
Okay, so
Mayor?
is there any other discussion? I'm just going to call for a motion. Okay.
I make a motion that we, by resolution, incorporate processing fees in the planning department as recommended by staff.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, that's second by, motion by Commissioner Millinger, second by Commissioner Allen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that motion carries. And then may we have a motion to direct the attorney to draft a resolution adopting permit fees?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. we have-
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Millinger, second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries.
The next couple of items I have to talk about, I'll deal with the new city hall. First, we're getting ready to do a sign for the outside of the building. Danny says they're gonna start with the columns next week, so we need to get the sign ordered. We went and got a quote from the same people that have done all three of our gateway signs, and they've done the welcome sign right at the BP, and they did the sign for the fish cleaning station that has the, you know, photo opportunity. Their quote came back at $12,998. So
That's for two signs.
that's a two-sided sign. Now, they did give us an additional quote to repair one of the existing gateway signs, and that was $2,110. But just the sign at City Hall was $12,998, and that was two sides.
And I asked Courtney to ask what they would charge to repair I knew that it would be expensive, because the fish cleaning sign that we purchased back in 14 was $4,872, of November of 2014. His signs are expensive. Ms. Tamara Allen dealt with him in the very beginning, I don't know when, to get the gateway signs here through a grant. So I wanted to make sure if we were going to invest, whatever it came back as, the sign would be able to be repaired or rehabbed in years to come. The signage on the gateway sign still looks pretty good.
They've held up really well, and then also we wanted to stay with the same look when we did our city hall sign, that we wanted them to have the same appearance as the other signs.
He says he.
And do they own the rights to that logo? Or did we buy the rights when we
No,
bought
they
last
own
one?
that. That circle.
I thought so.
Oval, they own that with the rope around it. He said that it would have the rope style border, it would have the same kind of pocket letters. Ms. Tamara, how old are those gateway signs?
I'm thinking they're about 10 years
Yeah,
old.
that's what I was thinking about.
And I
Kind of
know
moved in here.
right after we put them up, there was a problem with one of them, and I know they came back and made it good, and they've lasted where other signs that we purchased back at that same time are now completely invisible. You know, other kinds of signs are like, haven't held up. But they are, I mean, it is expensive, but it's a quality handcrafted sign.
We haven't talked about if it would say Carrabelle City Hall, or you said municipal complex,
Well, I
Carrabelle?
think when I sent in the email and asked you for the quote, I just said Carrabelle City Hall, and then established in 1893. Gary did point out though that it needed to say Carrabelle Police Department on there somewhere too.
Or municipal complex.
What do we need to do to get her done?
Well, we need to make sure that the commission is okay with the $12,998, $13,000 price tag in the first place.
What are we gonna do
Well,
with
let's
this
get it
one?
on the table, I'll make a motion to do it.
Okay, so we have we'll let you bring that up in discussion. So you have you're making a motion to, okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Allen to go ahead with the signage as designed by Apogee and Apogee, and second by Commissioner Matthews. Discussion.
What are we gonna do with the sign out front? Wouldn't it be a lot more cost effective to upgrade that and use it?
Well, it's already in the contract, but they're building the sign over here, and the inserts from this one won't fit in that one.
It's already in, but it wouldn't be cheaper to change the insert amount to meet this one and upgrade it than spend $12,000 on a complete new one? I'm just asking you a question.
I'm not sure, I don't have to price it.
I don't know. They're putting the foundation in for the new one, and it will have, best I can tell by the blueprints, columns on each side, rock columns, and then it's going to be a 4x4 space in the middle, where it will have to be a two-sided sign, you know. So
Yeah, that was two-sided,
but
it's just faded out.
can that be retrofitted?
I'm sure you could take it up and sandblast it and everything.
But does it, I don't know what the size is, I don't know anything about it, I mean, that would
I don't
have to.
write off.
Have we asked, whoever, Danny and them about that, if it's feasible and would save us some money?
No, I
To
mean, it
upgrade
was
that?
already in the plan, so we haven't changed anything.
I don't think,
It was
well, actually,
set
he
down.
said we needed to hire our own sign person.
Okay. But we may be hiring our own sign person, but that, obviously they're doing the foundation for it.
And the power, it won't have lights in it,
Yeah.
it will have lights on it. And a light is being installed for the flagpole location as well.
I would like for us to have, in my opinion, I'd like for us to have a nice sign, and I would hope that we do. but I would like to also save some pretty good dollars if we could do it and still have a nice sign with what we have already in existence.
I'll get some prices.
I mean, that's just a thought.
All right, it's fine with me, you know.
I mean, I'm good with the other if that's what we got to have, but if we can accomplish the same thing and have a nice sign and save money.
I think the main thing too was the facade of the new sign will match the side of City Hall.
Yeah.
To where this one's kind of built in 1970s to match this building. That one is gonna look more like the building that's there, the architect.
I guess I'm old fashioned because if I could dress that one up out there and save $6,000 or $7,000, I'd do it. I mean, and make it look nice.
Well,
you
and
know.
I think that's just the wood part, right? That's not-
Sometimes though, what we might save now,
That's
we
just the
pay for
wood.
later if it doesn't hold up. And so I think the quality here is really worth everything.
Well, the quality of that one right there is pretty stout.
And that price is for the actual wood sign itself, not the columns that they're putting in. So it's just the insert that goes inside.
Just the insert
Mm-hmm.
for that much. And it's wood?
Yeah. Well, it's a
It's a composite.
composite, yeah.
Composite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the V group planking.
Yeah, composite material.
Kind of like our new decking downtown.
But I'll get some prices on.
But now we have a motion by
Yeah.
Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner Mathis to move forward with it. So, and we're having discussion. Is there any further discussion?
I call for the question.
You call for the question, call for the vote. So I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm on oppose until if we knew different, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with the new one,
Okay.
but I'm opposed if we could save a substantial amount of money and still have a nice sign.
All right.
And we may not, but that's just a question.
Okay. Well, the motion carries. 'Cause we
It
have-
does, yes.
Okay. And we can take a look though, and see what it would cost to rehab, just to, kind of get some information, and we might bring that back, if we have different information and
Oh, yeah,
talk about it.
You can come up, it looks just as good, we could save some money fine, but we don't wanna build a new $1 million building and just stick anything out there anyway.
And of course, he may bring it himself, but we'll see what it's gonna be
Yeah.
before any approvals are made. He's very detailed on it.
Oh, and he did say that if we accepted his proposal, then he would send us the draft,
Uh-huh.
what is it? The proof.
Okay, proof. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the second page of the administrator's report.
Spending more money.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. This
The
one.
dice in the new city hall. Originally, we got a quote from the people who are doing the cabinets in the new city hall, and we had two options. First option was to do a stained birch, and the price of that was $17,840. The second option was to use materials, Wilson Art wood grain laminate, and the price of that was $15,385. So we reached out, and Nevia gave us another cabinet company, and we reached out to Corey Cabinets, and the quote that they're giving us is $13,018. And this would be for the dice, the commission tables, and the commission room. We would have a maple veneer and solid lumber construction.
Do you have any pictures of what it would look like?
They were all based on the Salt Choppy City Hall. I do have some pictures on my computer, but not here. And I think we've probably showed those up on the,
Is it similar to the counties?
It's raised up,
Yeah.
Yes.
It will be curved a little bit,
It comes.
like sock choppies, and then it'll
Just like
have,
sock
I agree, I like the curves.
it'll have runoffs on the side, and I believe it should.
There's 2 seats on each side, and
Uh-huh.
the commission
They
table.
should seat about 10 people, I believe. Well, let's see, 5 commission and 4 on each side, up to 4 on each side. Because we wanted to be able to seat a 7-member CRA board as well. Or
RPNC, I believe.
Yeah, 7-member P and Z. And it will have wiring and grommets, you know, it will be updated, and we've got wiring coming up through the floor now. We won't have to have it drop down out of the ceiling or be at the knee of the attorney. So what's the price? $13,000?
$13,018.
And that's for a dais.
That's the price.
And it doesn't.
And that's installation too.
Okay, yeah, furnish and
Labor
install.
and labor and material.
Delivery and installation.
Based on the floor plan showing layout of the new dais and photo of similar dais located at Sock Choppies in the City Hall. So, do we have any proposal on this regarding the motion? If not, we can always take this furniture with us.
I was waiting on everyone else, but I'll make a motion we proceed with it.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we take this with us.
I'll second. I thought it was time for you to spend some money.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Melander to proceed with the construction of the dais by Corey Company,
Corey Cabinet.
Corey Cabinet Company, and a second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any further discussion?
Only thing that I would comment on, and I think Courtney and I talked about it, is making sure that it's designed and set up for all of your equipment that you're gonna have, everything.
It'll be just like the city, South Choppy, and it will have, you know, grommets and chase for the electrical wiring and all of that. All right, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. Okay, so here we go again. Ms. Courtney.
So I've been talking to the phone company about, you know, it's time now for them to come out and finish the phone installation, and their suggestion that we go with the new phone system. We can take the one that we have here, it's 10 years old, it's outdated, they have to come work on it quite a bit, it doesn't work all the time. He doesn't have me a price back on that yet. It would be for 10 office phones and 1 single line conference phone. So that would be with Keisha, Miranda, Renee, and myself. Then there's the 2 other offices there at City Hall, and 3 phones for the police department. The phone in the conference room.
But you don't have a quote, you don't have a
I don't have a
guesstimate.
quote yet.
From who?
That is from Consolidated Communications.
That's who we do business with.
I believe when we installed this, it was around 7,000 to 10,000.
Now, if he comes back with something outrageous, then we'll just take
$10,000?
what we have.
And that was 10 years ago.
Now it's your turn.
I want y'all to know, we're not writing checks, but we're trying to work all of these items into the loan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a quote on that, but I'm sure it's gonna have to be done before our next commission meeting, because he's ready. Danny's wanting them here ASAP to finish pulling through the wires and get it ready.
And Danny is the site supervisor on new construction.
Well, as bad as I hate to, I'll make a motion that we allow staff to proceed, because our back's against the wall, so it sounds like to me.
No matter
And
reason.
I know that wiring has to be done prior to other things being completed. And maybe, Courtney, you could communicate cost to us as soon as you can, but, I would make a motion to allow staff to proceed with that. That's a necessity.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Milliger. Do we have a second to proceed with the new phone system?
I second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that motion carries. Okay, and then I've talked with Courtney. This is still under her report. We're looking at blinds for the windows. We're getting down to it now. Looking at Home Depot, 3 overhead cabinet units for the 2 staff restrooms and 1 cabinet unit that can be locked to hold office supplies over the copy area, the little alcove where the copy machine area is going to be, and some possible shelving for the records room to go around the top of the 5 cabinets. So that's not an emergency like the phone system is, or the other 2 items. If we can, let us go ahead and price these items from Home Depot and bring it back to you. Is that all right?
We gotta have it.
I'm good with pricing.
Okay.
I mean, my mind's running on, is there anything here that we could utilize that's in good shape? I'm not trying to suggest that we piecemeal.
Mhm.
I'm trying to suggest if we have anything here that's good, that's decent, that we can utilize, we should do that.
And we're going to be looking at shelving that's available around here, and there's also a doctor's office that we would like to be able to get into that's been vacated.
Right.
To see if they have some overhead cabinet units that can be moved.
That would be great. if
Staff
we do that,
restrooms.
yes.
We're scavenging for the whole building.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's great.
For furniture and cabinets and everything.
But blinds, we'll probably have to purchase that to fit those windows.
We could couple of sheets.
Yeah, that we can, or
Some temple.
Yeah, that'd do it.
Okay, so now, I've had a concern voiced to me by one of the employees about the interior lobby doors, that this person is afraid that they're not secure enough. Although the doors, when you're in the lobby and they close this way, you would have to have somebody, a 300-pound person, just, hit it 4 or 5 times to knock it out of the jam. If you get a solid, it's a hollow door, like a residential, the same style doors in any offices in Tallahassee. If you get a solid door, you're still going to be able to shoot a gun through it. Staff is worried about getting shot. I don't know why that hasn't occurred here, why staff's not worried about it. But I've explained that they can get shot underneath the countertop, through the sheetrock, through the outside of the building. It doesn't, the doors don't necessarily make the difference. Now, I asked Danny to give me an idea on what a metal door, 6-panel, what it would be to replace those doors. Of course, you'd have to take the ones out that are there. I wish, this had been brought up, a month ago when the doors were on. Rehang, purchase metal 6-panel doors, it's going to be $800 to $1,000 a door. Are we interested in that?
I'm gonna hide in the bushes and shoot. There, we have a police department right there.
Okay.
I don't see where we need no steel doors.
Okay.
We've already had those doors installed. I mean, how much safer can you be to have the police department right there in the building?
I don't
There's
know.
no guarantee in this day and time that some idiot's gonna walk in anywhere. But, no, I'm not in favor of changing the doors. That's just my opinion.
I agree with that. I mean, we're not Fort Knox, and yes, all of us have a certain amount of risk in everything we do. But, if that door's locked, it takes substantial effort. And again, all of our personnel, staff, us, and sitting right here, we're wide open to the doors. So, I mean, we want to protect ourselves within reason, and I want to protect staff within reason. But I feel like that's probably, especially as he said, we have a police department sitting right there.
Be like me, you ain't worth shooting.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. You know, I had the site supervisors demonstrate to me and to Courtney this morning, I believe, that, no, it would be very difficult to break in there. You have to get the doors off the hinges to do that. They're gonna have an electronic lock with the security system that's gonna be there. So,
From what I see at the new building, it's gonna be a whole lot safer than what we are right here right now.
so, but I was compelled to bring this to you because you know, the concern was voiced to me by an employee, so I had to bring it to you all.
That's legit.
Okay, so we won't, I'm not gonna call for a motion on that, okay? So, then I have one other one, under Courtney's report, she and I have been, considering relocating the flagpole out there, what it will entail, what it would cost, because you're not gonna be able to move that big flagpole for free. Meanwhile, I contacted Teresa Howard with Woodmen of the World regarding a flagpole donation. And she said she would be glad to present, she would be proud to present the city with the flag and a flagpole, but they can't do it right now. They budget for 2 flagpoles a year. They already gave one to the East Point Library and our fire department. She can get one for the first of the year. So we can either try to relocate this flagpole or relocate it. We need to get busy if we're going to do that and see what it will cost and who can do it for us. And if we take it down, we may as well have it sandblasted or whatever to kind of clean it up. And then, or if we don't relocate this, we'll be, you know, 4 to 6 weeks in city operations without a flagpole. But they installed the flagpole as well, so I'll leave that up to the pleasure of the board. Either relocate or hold out for a few weeks in operation without a flagpole. For free. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion, we get a new one.
Okay. All right.
What, hold out a couple of weeks and get the new one? I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner Millinger to hold out and wait on the Woodmen of the World to bring the flagpole to the city of Carrabelle. Is there any other discussion?
I would just say as an alternative, if that falls through, we'll hire someone to move this one and get it done.
Yeah. I'll follow up with her the first of the week and let her know and see when she can get it scheduled, and I will report back to you. So that's at least one item that's not going to cost us money.
Good deal.
Yeah, all right, so, any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. Okay, I guess that's all. Anything else for this
I just
board?
had one more thing that I was gonna just announce. I know that several of y'all got some calls about the drainage issue right here at the end of 5th Street and 98. And I do have a meeting with FDOT on the 11th to discuss what we can do about that. And they know that the boxes are too high and that that's their issue, but they're not wanting to do anything to lower or do anything until we do something with 5th Street. Because they're saying it's just gonna fill up with dirt. But I told them we'd be glad to take any advice that they had, if they had any suggestions, so they're gonna come down and meet with me on Tuesday.
Okay.
Good.
Any other comments?
How about the other board issue on Ryan Drive, that's resolved?
And it's not resolved.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, then we'll move to the city clerk's report.
I was just gonna report that I just permitted another cell tower on Ryan Drive. It's Excel Communications. I'm not sure what carrier they use. It's Unity. I don't believe it's the same company though.
Might be, I'll take a look at this, make up a meeting and see if I can find out for you.
But it's all on private property, but it will be on Ryan Drive. I want to announce our September 13th at 5:01 is our tentative budget hearing, and September 24th will be our final budget hearing at 5:01. September 20th at 10 o'clock, we have a workshop with DOT. for the, airport. And September 20th at 4:30, we have a PNC meeting.
That 13th, was it 501 Kennedy?
501, tentative. Mhm.
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Keisha? Any questions? Okay, then we'll move to Enovia's report. Mr. Waddell this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, pleasure to be here. Pinch hitting tonight for my partner Russell, who's on a church youth group meeting in Orlando. The copy of our report was furnished earlier today. I think you have a copy of it, so I'll just hit the high points, and then I have a comment or two that I might add in regards to City Hall. But in regards to the Avenue B project, obviously construction for that is ongoing. Russell and Kyle have been in dialogue with DEO about the change orders associated with the water line abandonment. All of that has been approved. So total budget-wise, in terms of the maximum amount of money in that grant, there's still about $30,000 left in reserve. On the Kios Dish and Scope project, those bid documents have been prepared and submitted to DOT for review. From an engineering standpoint, we're awaiting some additional information from the geotechnical engineer. Years ago, some of that area had been filled by the developer. There's some muck material underneath that fill. And so the geotechnical engineer is going to evaluate that and make sure that we're not going to build a road that would cave in on us. So just looking at that. Design is underway for the Lighthouse septic to sewer project. I believe, and just quickly, I know we got some additional requests for connections. Those are being incorporated in the plan. Sister project of that, rural development, water extension for phase 1 and 2. Kyle has begun putting together the PER. Preliminary engineering report was authorized, I think, last month. At some point, and I know that the Keisha and or Courtney met with the folks in Mariana. It's a different age when it comes to rural development grant applications. It's all uploaded through their system, through a portal. So eventually, the city will have a portal to upload financial information, customer stuff, rates, the things that we would have normally had to submit hard copy years ago. So we'll be monitoring when's the best appropriate time to do that. On City Hall, I did stop by there this afternoon before the meeting and just kind of took a look around. I did note one thing that I wanted to follow up with the architect about on the air conditioning system, minor thing. The sense of urgency on the telephone system would be important, I think, to determine if the phone system is going to be hardwired like telephone wire or a system that operates off your internet service. Hardwired. Okay. So sometimes pulling the one wire satisfies two. Gives you the benefit of two uses. And I think in following suit with the cabinet work, I have a resource in Tallahassee that I might pass it on to you for blinds, the blinds for the windows. It would be furnished and installed. It's pretty reasonable, so I'll share that vendor contact information with you. Other than that, that's the balance of the report. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. or quickly defer them to Russell for a later answer.
Just a quick question for me. Did I understand on Avenue B, there's about a $30,000 balance at this time?
$30,000 left, yeah, and what would have been the.
What would have been the scope?
Yeah. So, and it sounds like, generally speaking, that there, some work on several of the side streets has been added, which is good. So, I mentioned to Kyle, and we have taken some action on this with the contractor to tighten that site up a little bit from the standpoint of maintenance of traffic. We want it to be safe out there. So, I'll be mentioning that.
I had mentioned to the Jamie, the site supervisor, that we've had a couple of complaints about the tractors going along Avenue C, and some of the residents are concerned that the tractors may damage Avenue C or some of the side streets that aren't going to get reconstructed.
And I don't know the answer to this, are the materials going back there?
No materials are back there.
Okay.
But he just learned today that the phase 2 is going to go down to 3rd Street, and 4th Street is going to be completely reconstructed. And I said, if you can kind of make some approaches from that way or go around. I hate to have to go out on 98.
Right.
You know, but if they can somehow approach from 11th Street or something. He said he would try to stay off of C as best he could. Avenue C.
We'll include that in our discussion.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, I have 2 questions, and you may not know the answer. But Jamie, the site supervisor, told me today that there's not going to be much that's going to happen. We're concerned about drainage that's coming down. That's a hill up there at 10th Street and Avenue B, all of that. If you look on the floodplain management portal, that is almost like an island. It's an old sand dune. And if you get down to 11th Street, and you can be on 10th Street and look, you can see it's going downhill. And if you get over to the corner of 98 and 11th Street, then you're really downhill. You're where the Hunting Wood used to be and the haircutting place is now. Down there, they're at 15-foot base flood elevation, but they're getting flooding. Flooding is coming off of the whole hill up there. So I'm concerned on 10th Street, from 10th Street to 11th Street, the sidewalk and water, and then the curb and gutter, is it going to direct more water down on 11th Street than what we're getting now? Because we're going to have to get some kind of stormwater management there somehow.
I don't know the answer to that
Okay.
question standing here, but I'll definitely look into that.
All right. And then on another issue, Courtney just talked about at the 5th Street, Northeast 5th Street. I would like to ask the commission if we could ask Innovia to prepare a scope of work for management of stormwater drainage. Now, this is just to prepare a scope of work on what it would entail and what their fee would be and what they guesstimate that it would cost to manage stormwater drainage at the corner of Southeast Avenue A and Southeast 5th Street, where all that water is pouring down off the dirt there into the street and onto the sidewalk that I've been trying to keep clean for 7 years, and I know that Keith Walden's been trying to keep it clean for 3 years, and it's just about impossible because beating a dead horse now.
That entire dirt street coming off of there is washing out there from Fifth Street.
Constantly.
Yeah,
I mean, is it all right if they prepare a scope of work for us, just to kind of give an idea of what might be done, and what we could at least show that to folks that are having an issue, this is what it's going to cost, and then you don't have to come up with funding for this.
Well, the scope of work would be good, because hopefully there's some other things going to happen.
Do you think that it may be a good idea for somebody with Innovia to be here for this meeting on Tuesday to hear what FDOT?
That would be good to have.
We can do that.
It's mid-morning, I don't really have a time, they're gonna call me when they get in town, probably around 10.
Okay.
You know, I think a great idea to have an engineer representing the city there.
We'll be there for that. What time is that, Tuesday?
He just said mid-morning that they're coming in from Chipley, so he would let me know when he got in town.
Do y'all have any other questions?
Thank y'all very much. Good to
Nice
see you again. Thank you. Miss-
All right, so we'll move on to advisory reports, waterfront partnership.
Good evening, everybody. I think you all have received a copy of my report about the Carrabelle Waterfront Partnership. I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. We have finally, after 2.5 years, received a final report from the brownfield grant that we got for the old water plant. And, you know,
I can see you, Ms. Townsend.
can you?
Yes, ma'am, you good?
I can't see Keith, but, and the letter basically was, very technical about levels and percentages of the chemicals and so forth. But they're actually, the people who have, dealt with us with the water district, not the water district, with, the DEP staff from Pensacola, have encouraged us to write a letter and ask that it be reconsidered based on the alternative levels that are described by the University of Florida. This is apparently a way of closing out the project with a better outcome than if they just used the basic findings. And so we're have talked to Sally Cooey, who's the person that's been dealing with us since the other person that was there had passed away. And she's encouraging us to go ahead and write such a letter, but we've done that. We've already done that. Okay, well, I missed that part. Well, good. So we participated yesterday in a conference call about the other possible sources of funding from EPA to actually test for asbestos or lead paint. But also there's a new provision in their federal law where you can actually use it to design a different use for the property. You can use it to assess the structures that are there to determine if they're feasible to be used for anything else, or even all the way down through designing buildings or whatever your intended use of it is. We have never considered, in my understanding of this process, we never really came up with a good use that we're intending to make with this property after we resolve the brownfields issues there. But it is a good piece of city property that can be reconsidered for many things, and they have lots of examples on their website of where they've turned places like that into kind of the usual things like parks and recreational sites, but also housing, and also so that it can be sold to other people to be used for a variety of purposes. So there are some possibilities with that grant funding, and they won't have the details of that out for another few weeks. It just passed, the law just passed, and it's not yet available to the public. So the conference call was just to alert everybody they need to start looking into it, because around December there might be money that we might be eligible for. But at this point, I don't think we know enough about what the new law says, except that it gives preferential points to waterfront communities and communities in the floodplain. So they're only going to do 20 projects nationwide. But in those projects, they have large ones, small ones, rural ones, and other ones. And so it's just something that we perhaps should think about if not this year, perhaps a different year. What might we do with that land that the city owns there on Avenue C? I want to remind everybody, and that the coastal cleanup, International Coastal Cleanup for 2018 is coming up on the 15th of September, starting at 8:30, and there'll be a number of sites in the area. The one for Carrabelle will be down at the Pavilion, and we'd like to invite all of you to come and help us clean up Carrabelle from between 8:30 and 11:30. Many of you have done that in the past, and we'd love to invite the public as well to come and participate. They're also having teams at the beach, teams over in Lanark and on Dog Island, and so forth and so forth. The other thing I just wanted to tell you, I think you're all aware that the local Carrabelle's community response team members are no longer staffing the donation center that's back in the cafeteria, and that's being handled now by the emergency management staff. So if there's any inquiries, and I'm still not clear whether they ever got a contract with the city. Did they ever do a contract? We did close out the grant for phase 4 of the old city hall renovations, and almost down to the penny. We left $244 with the state that we didn't use, which is just short of, we didn't go over. The city didn't have to pay extra, so we're glad about that. I'll not get to send money back to the state. And the new work for phase 5 and hopefully the final phase should start within the next couple of weeks. We're waiting for the architect and contractor to come and meet with us about what the schedule is. And otherwise, we're spending our time at the museum this week working on the nomination for the Justice Building for our National Register nomination, and finding some wonderful old papers about that. So, are there any questions? Okay, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Ms.
it.
Tamara,
Thank you.
very much. We'll move forward then to the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board report.
Hi, good evening. I sent this by my telephone, and I didn't really proofread very well, but I'll send you a new copy. First thing I noticed is I had the wrong month on it. We had a board meeting last month and talked about filling the seat left by Greg Newman, and talked to Courtney about it. And what we'd like to do is advertise to fill that seat, similar to what we did when we were selected, and also have 2 alternatives. We're having times when we're having a tough time getting the quorum together, so we need that extra seat filled, and we figure by having 2 alternatives, we'll have a couple more people. And we've had some interest, about 3 or 4 different people, and it'll give us a little more experience and a little more help. So I guess I just need your permission to go ahead and get a
Would be a
quorum.
motion for that to advertise for 1 replacement and 2 alternates. We want to go ahead and give that motion.
Make a motion.
Okay. All right, and do we have a second?
I'll second it, but and just a comment, but not to get into Tim's report. There's other committees that we're short-staffed on our volunteers, and we need to kind of combine and do some advertising there. I'm talking with a few people. I think we all need to do that, but anyway, I don't want to get off on your subject, but yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay, and then as a discussion, I will say possibly we may have to add that we used before. I don't know the wording. I don't know if we still have that or not. But we requested like aviation-related, someone that had aviation-related experience.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. Okay, go ahead.
I haven't been available here the last couple of weeks. I haven't talked much with Courtney lately, but we had talked to Dan about the problem with the new hangar, and if you want to address that, where we're at, about who's going to pay for the drainage.
I talked to Courtney earlier. Kathy Construction, we had a big meeting out there. They proposed some fixes. They seemed to think it was all doable, and had talked about again exactly how to do it. They were going to propose to us time frame as well as cost. Obviously, the city is looking to them, to both Kathy and the engineer, to cover the expense of the added improvements that are necessary when they complete construction out there. We also have, and so we're waiting for their report back. It's hopeful that they'll simply incorporate it into the balance of the construction that needs to be done out there, and it just gets done. If that is not the case, and they're looking to the city for, to contribute to it, obviously that came up, and there was some confusion regarding who would ask for what at what periods of time during between the bid that went out, some changes that were made to it during construction and the beginning of construction and all that, which again just turns things into confusion. That we may not have to visit any of that stuff if they're just going to take care of it. And we don't know that yet because they have not given us their financial proposal or their proposal to complete what's going on out there. So we're still a little bit, it's unknown right now until they ask us, put a touch on us for money. We're not. If they don't, we're good.
I would like to ask, wouldn't a company like that be bonded? Aren't they bonded? Would you think of it to get?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If
FDOT, JPA.
Absolutely, absolutely. If they made the mistake, and again, without rehashing our whole entire conversation out there, and we're all there, and we may all have different kind of views on what was said by folks, but one thing that got my attention was simply that it was not constructed according to the plans that were bid. So there were changes that were needed to be made on site, and that is a wrinkle that we had not discussed before. And that wrinkle could have an effect on this, but I'm hoping it will not. I mean, they seemed like they were going to jump on it and hopefully complete I'm going to call it the additional construction to address the stormwater as part of the rest of their construction. If they do that, great, then we're good. If they say, no, it's going to cost us more, then I also they were very good, it was a good meeting, but the engineer certainly is not taking any responsibility, not that he may not have any, but if it comes down to Kathy, we don't know if we have an issue yet there. I don't think. I mean, I haven't heard anything. If anybody else has, let me know. But again, I'm hopeful they'll complete these enhancements or whatever is needed as part of the construction amount, the amount we need to pay them anyway. If they won't, then obviously my job is to gather those facts that we talked about gathering, that were additional facts that were never talked about until that meeting, and obviously advise you all that no, we need to tell them to go ahead and call their bonding company and get this straightened out, or we directed them to do certain things post-bid that opens us up to having to contribute.
And I will say the hangar was supposed to be completed, the contract in March sometime. And it's not being used, and it's really, to have something sit vacant is not good. And losing income meanwhile. So, we need to hopefully get this thing out of the way. I'm sure the DOT expects us to manage it and handle it and not let it sit in a condition.
When I asked Courtney would speak on it, but that she had been in touch with Brian Cathy, and he's, they're still working on getting us the proposal.
He was supposed to have had it to me over the weekend.
Yeah.
They have a pile of gravel out there, so it looks like they're starting to do something, but it's been out there for a few days.
And one of his proposals that they were gonna get me was that he was looking at ways to reduce the cost of their asphalt. And that because they needed so little bit of asphalt out there, the more asphalt that they got at one time, the cheaper it cost. And if he could do it concurrently with doing the pavement at City Hall, because it's the same company, that he might could get asphalt for cheaper and that would cover the cost of drainage, but I haven't seen anything in writing.
Do you know about when that would be happening, City Hall?
Soon.
Soon, yeah,
But he needs to cut the asphalt out,
yeah.
out here.
Like I said, he gave me a verbal, but he's never given me anything, and I haven't heard back from him with the price or whether it's gonna work out or not.
So Tuesday, we had the workshop, the public workshop for the airport development. Tonight, you'll get the same presentation from Kinley Horn. Next Thursday, I'm going to meet with Kinley Horn and FDOT to go over the options you're going to see tonight and where they stand with it all. And then Zach from Kinley Horn probably better explain it tonight, but it's still a work in progress. There's no decisions to be made yet. We're just trying to group all the information together. The District 3 meeting is coming up. I don't have a date in here, but it's the end of October, I believe October 30th. And they're changing the forms and the process for reimbursement on the JPAs. They're changing the name of JPAs to the Public Transportation Grant Agreement. So they're having a District 3 meeting, and they invited us all up. I know, I think Courtney's going to try to go, and Miranda, and I'll be there. So that we can better understand how to move the paperwork through for the grant money. Any questions on anything else?
Thank you much.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. And then we have the Carrabelle HR Committee, Human Resources Committee report, and Mr. Magnan's unable to attend for his report tonight. He's home taking care of Miss May. She had unexpected surgery last Friday, so we'll ask Commissioner Millinder, who sits on that committee, to please give Mr. Magnan's report this evening.
Be glad to. I'll read from Tom's report. The Carrabelle Human Resource Committee meeting on August 8, 2018. We had the initial review of the Streets and Roads Superintendent job description and the Streets and Roads Tech job description. And at that meeting, we discussed the intent of the Carrabelle Human Resource Committee to do the initial review of the financial clerk position description at the next committee meeting. So that was August 22nd, for August 22nd. On August 22nd, the committee met again. Some edits were made on both the Streets and Roads Superintendent and the Tech job description, and which were to be made by Courtney. And it was also discussed and suggested at that meeting that we, on the finance clerk's position description, that title be changed from finance clerk to finance administrative assistant, to kind of, the discussion was to take away some of the confusion from the city clerk position description and the finance clerk position description. So it's still finance, but it's administrative assistant. So that was a suggestion we made there. And the next part of the Human Resource Committee was the 28th, when you guys met. Y'all went over some, the street and road superintendent and the street and roads tech position. There were some minor modifications and suggestions made at that point. And those were incorporated, and I'm assuming everybody reviewed them because we just approved all that just a few minutes ago. And so now at this next meeting, which is coming up next week, but our intent next week was to further review the finance administrative assistance position, which we've already looked at and made some changes. And also, we're going to start looking at the city administrator and the city clerks. And I think Courtney already has drafts of those ready for committee review, and we will probably do that next week if Mr. Tom is available. But I hear that, I understand and not getting into their private lives if there's some issues, and if we have to postpone that, I guess the board would be accommodating to that. I know I would. So if we have to postpone our meeting and move it to a later date, we may have to do that. But that's where the HR committee's at. We're just moving right along with it. We appreciate everyone's input on it.
I would say that we did discuss at on the 28th meeting, the commission discussed that we would like to review those 3 administrative.
Correct. That was in
Okay.
the report
And
as well.
so, yeah, and so we'll need to set a date, maybe in October, because I was gonna suggest now, that, just to cancel next week's meeting, since you all have been working very hard, having meetings every week, and Courtney does the follow-up work, and just to go ahead and cancel the 12th to give the Magnans, time to recuperate. Miss Magnan, you all may not know, and some of the people on the committee, she does a lot of the behind-the-scenes volunteer work for the HR committee. She's a retired English teacher, and she helps proof all of the descriptions, and so, you know, she'll be missed from that committee, even though you all may not know it for sure.
Oh, we
So,
do.
okay, so I want you all, I'm gonna ask that you cancel that meeting, the 12th, and then also cancel the November 21st meeting. That's the meeting right before Thanksgiving, and both of the meetings in December. In December, staff takes a lot of time off, everybody's taking vacation, it's a busy time, and you all can come back in the first of the years. All the descriptions will be done by then, and come back in the first of the year and start on the evaluation forms or whatever you had planned next, policy or whatever. So that's what I would suggest. We need to make a meeting date to review all the administrative staff. I think if we did that by on October the 25th on Thursday, I think that's a P&Z meeting. Is that a P&Z meeting, Jack? I was trying, that would give you all,
I got 25th on Tuesday.
25th on Thursday, October.
It'd be the 18th would be P&Z.
oh, 18th. Well, if it was Thursday, that would give y'all 3 more meetings, before we had a meeting to review the administrative staff. Do you all think you would be able to complete it in 3 more meetings? The 3 administrative staff?
That would actually only give us 2 more meetings if we skip this week.
Well, you have, September the 26th,
Correct.
and then 2 meetings in October.
We would have 1 meeting in October prior to
Okay, what's
The
the meeting,
18th.
what's the meeting dates in October?
the 10th and the 24th.
Okay. And if we meet on the 25th,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said the 18th.
the 18th is the P&Z meeting.
Okay. So you want to have a commission workshop or a commission special meeting?
Well, we could have, it could be a workshop, that way the attorney won't have to come. But if we have a special meeting, we could go ahead and vote on the descriptions. I'll leave that up to the board.
Your call.
All right, what time do we want to do that, first of all? 1:30, would that be all right? Since it's not a P&Z day? Okay, so we'll do it at 1:30. How are you, Mr. Hartman, if we had a special meeting that day, on October the 25th?
I am fine.
Okay. All right, well, we'll plan for a special meeting on October the 25th at 1:30. If we could have a motion for that.
I make a motion to have a special meeting on October 25th for the purpose of the HR committee review.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that motion carries. And do we need a motion to cancel these meetings for the HR, or can we just suggest that they cancel the meetings? You all may not want to, but.
I think it's a good idea. I would suggest that we do it.
Okay, do we need a
We're
motion?
we're moving along very well, and I think we're doing good, and need to take Tom and his family's health into consideration. And absolutely, the holidays comes in, everything gets busy.
And they'll be busy, the staff is gonna be busy moving in December.
That's correct.
Yeah. So do we need a motion for the HR committee to cancel their meetings?
Do not, you guys,
Okay.
the chairman can just,
Okay.
you set your own and cancel them. Yeah.
All right, Courtney will let the chairman know those dates. All right then. So, any other items under the HR committee, any questions? Courtney, Charlie, who's on that committee?
No, just thank you for your input. You guys gave them the 28th, and that's not here.
All right. We'll move on into the public hearing, and we have two resolutions, and I'll ask the attorney to read the first resolution.
All right, first resolution is City of Carrabelle Resolution 04-2018, a resolution authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a change in description to a supplemental joint participation agreement project number 425610-3 with the Florida Department of Transportation to provide 100% grant funding from constructing parking apron to constructing parking apron, upgrade existing hangar doors, and conduct a survey, perform construction inspection and coordination for the security fence project, whereas the City of Carrabelle needs 100% grant funding to conduct a survey, perform construction inspection and coordination for the security fence project, whereas the Carrabelle City Commission wishes to take advantage of the generous offer of the Florida Department of Transportation to provide 100% of the funding to make these needed improvements to the Carrabelle Thompson Airport. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, assembled in regular meeting on September 6, 2018, that the mayor be and she is hereby authorized and directed to negotiate and execute a supplemental joint participation agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, document necessary to receive funding from the Florida Department of Transportation as follows. Florida Department of Transportation participation 100% for $215,000. City of Carrabelle participation 0%, $0. Total project cost $215,000. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be attached to the joint participation agreement between the City of Carrabelle and Florida Department of Transportation and fully executed and adopted by the City of Carrabelle, by the Carrabelle City Commission on this 6th day of September 2018.
Okay, this resolution is for the same purpose as the one previously passed in July. Simply different wording to better define the purpose of the funding, and as to conduct, we want to move some money from the apron grant to conduct a survey, perform construction inspection, and coordination for the security fence at the airport. And do we have a motion for this resolution?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Okay, so that motion is by Commissioner Miller, second motion by Commissioner Mathis. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then would you please read the proclamations?
All right, Proclamation 03-2018, whereas communities across America have been plagued by numerous problems associated with illicit drug use and those that traffic in them, and whereas there is hope in winning the war on drugs, and hope lies in education and drug demand reduction, coupled with the hard work and determination of organizations such as the Young Marines of the Marine Corps League to foster a healthy drug-free lifestyle, and whereas governments and community leaders know that citizen support is one of the most effective tools in the effort to reduce the use of illicit drugs in our communities, and whereas the red ribbon has been chosen as a symbol commemorating the work of Enrique Kiki Camarena, a Drug Enforcement Administration agent who was murdered in the line of duty and represents the belief that one person can make a difference, and whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention and reduction efforts, and whereas October 23 through 31 has been designated National Red Ribbon Week, which encourages Americans to wear a red ribbon to show their support for a drug-free environment. Now, therefore, we, the City, Carrabelle City Commission, do hereby proclaim October 23 through 31 as Red Ribbon Week in Carrabelle, Florida, and urge all citizens to join us in this special observance.
All right, believe it or not, I don't know anything about this. So, how did we come about this?
It was sent by the Young Marine, is it the Marine League? Young Marine League. They forwarded it out and asked that we participate. We've participated in the past.
Okay.
We just haven't got one in a couple of years.
I move that we do it. I have a belief grandson.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Allen. Okay, and motion by Commissioner Mathis. to participate in the Red Ribbon Week. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, then we're going to move on to new business. Yes, we can, and then, well, if we can take a recess now, if you all would want to go ahead and set up, we were going to take a recess before item 5.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay. Are we sure we're okay? We can take a recess now and a short break before 5. Item 5, this is just item 1.
Go ahead, we got a long agenda.
Okay, all right, item 1. Discussion possible action concerning cell tower lease of Sprayfield. And this is actually a proposal for the cell tower company to lease a portion of Sprayfield. And I would say this would probably, you come on up and introduce yourself. This would be a preliminary review to decide whether or not we want to move forward and have the attorney study it.
That is correct, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Belinda Betty. I'm here at the City Community Group. My address is 1022 Highland Colony Parkway in Ridgeland, Mississippi, 39157. And as the mayor stated, this is just preliminary. Y'all have the draft lease to review. If y'all are interested in pursuing leasing us property for a cell tower out there in the Lenart Village area. And I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, does anyone have questions at this time?
The only question I have, Mayor, is I'm assuming this is pertaining to the lease that we received, I believe it was last month, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that was quite a lease, and no one was here, so I'm not familiar with it tonight to ask any questions, and we may do, I guess we just proceed like the mayor said.
Well, I do have some questions.
Okay.
There are a few, just preliminary. It talks here, $800 in the beginning for the option to lease. And that's not the lease, just the option, initial option term, which would be 2 years.
Right.
Is that the $800? Is that a year?
Yeah, it's just a one-time payment of $800. That's
And then if you go again the second year with the initial option term,
Yes.
and that's just a study.
right. That's to give Unity time to get through all their necessary governmental approvals, such as a phase 2 will have to be done because the phase 1 report came back and said it is recommended phase 2 given the previous uses, with that being, I believe, the armory and things like that. So it's just recommended. Of course, we would have to get zoning approval from the county, FAA approval, and all of those NEPA phase 1s and all that, or actually, excuse me, phase 2. So that would give us the period to get all of those necessary approvals done.
Okay, and then you referred to surrounding property throughout the contract, surrounding property, and it's actually bolded.
Okay.
I can't find a definition in there, you know, what is surrounding property?
Okay, well, I will take a look at it. Can you point the first one out to me real quick?
Okay, I'm-
Oh, okay, well,
okay.
actually on page 2.
Uh-huh.
All right, under item F.
And then down under permitted use, you see permitted
Yes.
use. Uh-huh. And it goes, you'll see it off and on.
Right, off and on throughout, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, you know, it talks about, in one portion, you know, we must agree to lease additional land, rights to use the surrounding property. We can't do certain things can't be done with surrounding property, so, you know, that's concerning.
Right, and certainly I do expect your attorney to have some red lines for me, so,
Okay,
so absolutely.
all right.
And
then
typically, usually when you see like the surrounding properties, generally your contiguous property where you guys own, it would be part of that. Or, well, we consider the parent tract, we would lease the 100 by 100 in the access easement, and then the surrounding would be the remainder of your parent tract.
The remainder of the apparent tract.
Mm-hmm.
So you would lease the easement as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will be the 30-foot easement, or the 30-foot wide easement back to, because that would, how would be our access back to the site gets done, and then we come to that 100 compound back there.
And this portion right here is included with the amount that you all talked about, $800 a month if you exercise the lease.
That is correct, yes.
So all of the easement and the the 10,000.
Right, and of course, this is a non-exclusive easement, so it's just an easement for us to run, the power, telco, and then be able to drive the maintenance vehicles back there.
And so then does the term surrounding property apply to that easement as well?
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the parent track, which goes a little bit over here. So that would be what would be considered the parent track.
Parent, P-A-R-E-N-T, parent tract. And so all of that would be considered surrounding property? Okay, so,
In other words, a complete field.
yeah, so, okay, all right. And it would be 17 5-year terms, so 9 years.
That is correct.
And it increases the rent by 7.5% every 5-year term. And so I just calculated a little bit, and in 20 years, the earnings would be about $215,000, somewhere around in there.
Over a 20-year period.
Yes, in 20 years.
Maybe something on that. People, landowners would want part of that same plot that we could not.
Well, we would have to ask the attorney exactly, how, if we can do this. Now, it talks about if you decide to discontinue, some equipment can be left, and that would be abandoned on the property and then be owned by the landlord. But of course, like you said, there would be red lines and changes and.
Yes, and that's one that I would expect a red line on.
Okay. And then we would have to execute a separate recordable easement as well.
And I will check on that for you as well, because generally it's part of the agreement. So I will check and see if they would need a separate executable easement agreement.
Okay, and it says the landlord will be responsible for maintenance of the landscaping on the property, so,
Again, another red line I expect to see from your attorney.
All right. And you all can sublease the agreement anytime. You can sublease, and I believe you can sell, the option to lease and sublease. So if you sublease or sell, are they subject to the new tenants subject to? Well, you can't sell, but you can sublease. So I think you can sell this lease as well.
I believe it's a signed lease, yes.
So would they be subject to the same terms as the original?
And like I said, if the attorney needs to add some additional language, that please feel free. Like I said, this is obviously their attorney's road. So like I always tell landowners or perspective, I expect red lines back from your attorneys. So
Layman's term, you're throwing it out there to see what sticks.
this is what I'm given to present. So yes.
And sell a property, of course, the landlord can't sell the property or lease it or rent it that you all have leased. But what about then the surrounding property or the parent property? It says any part of the property or surrounding properties. So that's to me, it's concerned,
right?
Because that's a fair amount of property.
Correct.
And then if the city wanted to do something, and now this is a 90-year term, so we're thinking about something for people in the future here, definitely. First, this company would have first right of refusal if the city wanted to do anything.
And what they have told me on that, the first right of refusal, they keep that in there, is just to make sure that the new owners would honor the existing lease. So it's not necessarily, if they were to look at buying it, it would only be for their tower and rights to an access. So typically they're not looking to buy if you were looking to sell any remaining part of the property. Because I did ask that question, because that's come up obviously numerous times with the owners who own the large tracts of land.
Okay, then, if there was a dispute, the prevailing party would be entitled to recover all reasonable attorney fees and expenses for enforcing any right of the prevailing party. Not just reading this out for the commissioners as well. And then there's a waiver of jury trial, so each party will waive the opportunity to have a jury trial. And that's it, that's all I have to say at this point. Just wanted to bring some highlighted points to the commission and ask them if they're interested in proceeding.
Personally, I'm not.
I'm fine with it. After the attorney looks at it.
Surrounding properties,
That's
a big area there.
Mayor, I'm with the rest of the board, I have some concerns, but, I'd be willing to give it the effort to direct our attorney to look at it and give us some direction.
And I will say I'm concerned as well about the surrounding property.
Exactly.
There, you know, to tie something up for 90 years is extremely you know, you know, you can certainly have a lease and tie that up and make an agreement for that, but the surrounding property is concerning.
Yeah.
And other items in there, waiving of a jury trial and expenses for prevailing party and some of the other things that I brought.
I would be interested in a lease, but I don't know if I'd be interested in what I see in part of that.
Or the term.
Yeah.
How high is the tower?
This one, we are looking at 226 feet. So it'd be a self-support tower, meaning no guide wires.
Oh, really?
That's all.
I have to go through that for the permit.
Yeah, we would have to file for FAA, and more than likely it would require to be lit, which is generally the dual mode light, like during the day and during the night.
So I'll make a motion that we have our attorney look at it and kind of give us a report on it.
Okay, so we have that motion by Commissioner Millender for legal review with report. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries.
Well, I appreciate y'all's time and
Thank you.
allowing it to go for legal review and comments. And I look forward to getting y'all's comments back for them to review. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for being here tonight. And then we would ask the attorney, would you like this as an agenda item next month to report on?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Do you need anything from me, an additional soft copy or anything like that?
Actually,
I can send you her email
Great,
information,
perfect,
and you
that's all
have
I need.
everything,
Yeah.
I have information.
Yeah,
in case I have any questions.
Sure, absolutely, and anything else you may need to assist you in your review.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business item 2, discussion of possible action concerning a request to purchase water and sewer property on Highway 98 in Lanark, requested by Russell Sykes. Mr. Russell Sykes here, okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff. I've got some paperwork that I'd like to hand out because it's good to fix the portion of the property that we're speaking about with your permission.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Is that right? Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Russell Sykes, and I'm a full-time resident of Franklin County. My wife and I live at 102 Newman Drive, which is right across the Highway 98 from the Lanark Boat Club. My purpose in addressing the Commission this evening is to formally advise that I have an interest in the possible purchase of a portion of property that's owned by the city, and I believe managed by the Water and Sewer Department. But before I go much further, I need to, before I go much further and incur any expense for appraisal and for surveying, I need to see if the city would even entertain the sale of the subject property. The subject property is on page 3 of the handout that I just made to you. The sale of the subject property would be found money for the city. It would return the property to the tax rolls and probably reduce the city's liability insurance. For the last 14 years, my wife and I have mowed, trimmed, planted, fertilized, watered, and maintained portions of that property that we're interested in, and if purchased by my wife and I, will seek no change to the land use or zoning. We have no desire to build. Our purpose in purchasing would be to continue to maintain, enhance, and preserve the beauty of the subject property. The portion that we are interested in is property that is not used. There are no structures on the property. For practical purposes, the property is landlocked. There's no access by a hard road. There's dirt there, obviously, a truck can drive on. But there's no access to that property, either from Highway 98 or from the backside of Newman Drive. There are several easements, and I believe that's for storm water. The subject property also has an active spring, which drains onto the Patel property, and that's shown down there near Highway 98. And there's a circular depression on that property, which may be the beginning of a sinkhole. That being so, I believe it would necessitate a cash purchase. I don't believe that any bank would finance this property purchase. That's my remarks, Commission, and I'm available for questions. I'm available to show the property if any members want to come out and take a look at it. But I just don't want to spend any money for appraisal or for survey until I even know if the city is willing to sell the property or consider a sale of the property.
Okay, so before we move forward, let's ask the commission, are they, do y'all want to consider discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Or, do we want to consider, we'll discuss this for a few moments? Okay, all right then.
Yeah.
I would then ask the attorney, we would have to advertise this as surplus property, is that correct?
You know, we talked about this, not this with regard to this specific piece, but it was with regard to something else recently. I think it was City Hall, whatever. And I got a little education on this, and it's my understanding that we do not have to advertise real property when we are selling off. Now, a lot of cities do, because it's kind of considered best practice, right? Because you don't want to. You don't ever want to be accused, and like we're on, well, we purchased property, whether it's through CRA or the city and that sort of thing. There's always, you know, people that look at it and say, hey, that wasn't a, you know, really arm's length transaction or whatever. And obviously putting it out there and advertising it and that sort of thing, encouraging, it gives you cover on something like this. But it is not required. But it's not required. So that was interesting, because I honestly had thought that when you do personal property, a lot of times it is required, but it's really a state function, whereas cities operating under home rule powers or anything else, we can buy, sell real property almost like an individual.
Yeah, I noticed that in the paper today, the local paper, of course, I've been knowing it's been going on now for several months, getting their meeting, that the city of Apalachicola is looking at doing something very similar to this, and their advertisements in the paper today. And they're actually going to the point of hiring, or looking at hiring a realtor to handle the transaction. And it's just a little small, tiny piece. It's on it. I've been sitting on their meetings over there, and they've been going back and forth with it. So anyway, the point I'm making is the city of Apalachicola is keeping it open and or they're putting it in the paper and advertising.
Sir, is this that pond that's got a drain that comes all the way under
No, sir.
98 and then to the boat landing?
No, it's not. I've got a plat that's about 60 years old. It's about the only one available right now. This is Newman Drive. Here's Highway 98, you come up Newman Drive. And right over here is that lake. You can see it. It's called Ryan Lake.
Okay.
And it drains into this
Right,
spring, and
all
there's
the
an
way in.
easement all the way down there.
Yeah, it's right next to it there.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, it actually adjoins it.
Well, this is an old plant, and there was a structure on this property that no longer exists. The water pumping station now, or the ground.
Lift station.
Lift station is right here. And the purpose, the area that I'm interested in runs kind of like this. I think it's about an acre or so, maybe a little more or less. I'm not sure.
There was a clubhouse somewhere back
That's exactly right.
where it's there.
Well, there was an officer's mess back there, and then there
It's
was
across the street.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you would like to leave this, I can leave it with Courtney, and she can make.
You may want, well, do y'all want copies of that, do you think?
I've got,
It's a
I've
nice
got a-
picture, you may not want to leave it.
well, probably an antique back now, but I do have something that might be helpful to you, and that's, the reduced version, what I just,
Yeah, that's one I believe you shared with me before.
it might be.
Oh, you did.
You can see all kind of things in there. You'll see owls. I hear the owls down there all the
I
time.
dug that drain or opened it out.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mr. Hartman, what about an appraisal? Who would be, responsible for that? I mean, I know we have to.
If, for instance, we were going to, if we were going to, I mean, there's a lot of facets to this, but if we were going to offer that property for sale, as we're talking about, we'd want to get an appraisal done. I mean, we would say, hey, this is just again, like an individual selling a piece of property, and, hear what Mr. Sykes is saying, and I've seen this property too. You see it's landlocked. I mean, we would probably want to make that crystal clear that there is no access. We're not warranting it. And obviously, Mr. Sykes, it would be, he might get into something with his neighbors there, someone else might take a run at that, but that's, we want to, we would want to get an appraisal done. Probably, it wouldn't, I don't think it would cost a lot to get a title work done on it. I'm curious how we arrange that. We got it when we bought land, or when we bought the system, but both for our purposes and the ultimate buyer's purposes, you want to know that they're getting good title, that we have good title.
But we
I
also,
would think that both of us, I would want to have an appraisal, and I would think that the city should have an appraisal as well.
and I'd also want to know there's additional property there that the city owns that's beyond this parcel or piece that he's looking at, and how it connects to that lift station you're talking about. There's a part of the city still owns property in addition to what he's
And the thing is too, with what Mr. Sykes is talking about, and not to put him on the firing line, but if we have facilities that we may need to cut across there, access that, whatever, easements, there could be deed restrictions, there could be all kinds of things.
Well, I'm generous.
So, and you mentioned that it would be income to the city. Actually, it would be, an income to the water and sewer department, and if there was an appraisal or title work and survey, that would be funded by the water and sewer department. We did talk about this at our water and sewer department meeting, that possibly, if we move on this, that we would have that entire location with the lift station and the property on the other side of the creek that borders those houses on Carl
Right.
and on the backside, just have all that surveyed so we know exactly where everything is.
Yeah, I don't go much further towards the creek than where the tree line is, right in there. If you come to the lift station, or to the lift station, and then turn down to the parcel that I'm interested in. I'm not interested in that unless the appraisal came back real low. In that case, I'd be interested in talking to you about taking more, but this is my first shot at it, and this is really well.
And actually, if we were going to do something like that, the income from this, if there was any income after all of the preliminary work, could be used as a portion of a down payment on the loan that we're possibly going to seek for the water line installation on Lighthouse subdivision. And there's other properties over there that could also be included if we wanted to. There's property on Warren Drive that's owned by the city, and property on Oak Street as well that's owned by the city that we might consider as surplus property at the same time.
Has the city developed a policy yet on selling city-owned property?
No, we don't.
No, we've done it very rarely, and it's been we've handled it differently.
Does the city own this property, or does the water company own the property?
The water company owns it, water and sewer.
Which is the city, yeah.
Which is the city, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know we're sitting here.
Yeah.
It was, it's the, but
came
I
with
think
the
you're right as far as
landowner.
accounting for the money, it's part of the enterprise fund, but it is, I mean, that's like the title work, really. But the title work, I mean, the city of Carrabelle owns our water plant.
So you write a check to the city?
Yeah, it'd be the city. The city would be the seller.
But there's
The money
opportunity
would stay
there
with
to, make money for down payment on a loan.
Quite honestly, Mayor, it's a very attractive piece of property. There are beautiful trees in there. As I said, I have no intent in developing that property, selling it or anything that'll go from me at my demise to my children, and my wife and the children. She's 10 years younger. And so my first choice, quite honestly, would just be make it almost a greenway, just make it pretty so people can see it and enjoy it.
I think it's the pond there, so what I'm getting at, would there be an issue of people getting into it?
No, no,
No,
It's
it's
not
not
that
his
big.
property, it's not on his property.
no, I don't think we won't get that.
And that's not on city property
Well,
either.
maybe it's down.
Any other questions? What would be the mechanism from this point? Do you want me to, do you all want to discuss it? Or can I assume that there is an interest in selling the property? And go from there and get ourselves an appraiser first of all?
I see the sticky note that you put on here. Do you have dimensions, actual specific, if we said, if the surveyor went out there, where would you pop those corners?
The dimensions that are shown here are dimensions that I got from the county. I don't have this dimension, I don't have that dimension. These are 60-foot lots, so there's 3 of those lots in there, so it's 180 feet. There's a little 20-foot section right there, so I'd call it 200 feet going this way. This house this is Mr. Patel's house. That's the White House that sits back and has summer rentals on it. The next piece of property over is owned by a fellow named Joe Cloran. I have an agreement with him to allow me to cut his grass on his property, which he's happy for, but also I gave away any liability. So if I get hurt, it's my problem, right? And then this property over here is owned by the same people that have that piece of property that's across Highway 98 that looks like Stonehenge. It's got the pillars down up there, that's what I call Stonehenge. But they own that piece of property. And then there is a gentleman who is retiring right here and works, he's an administrator at the hospital, he's running the mortuary. And then there's me, and then there's 2 others. This little piece was purchased by, I think it was purchased about a year or 2 ago by Norm Gepple. but we've dressed the area up. That, you know, quite honestly, man, ladies, was a swampy area. And when I had a lease with the, Denmark Water and Sewer District, I put 22 dump truck loads of sand in there, and then planted St. Augustine South. And now I've got water. Because I made a deal with, you can tell, so that he had a pump. So he lets me, if I mow his lawn, he lets me pump his water.
Okay, Commissioner, do we want to move forward with this now? What we would need to have an appraisal, title work, survey?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, may I make a suggestion first? Let me first get an appraisal on it, which I'll share with you. But if the appraisal looks like my social security number, I'm out. So what I want to do is make sure that I'm not.
That you can afford.
I'm going to dump on this thing.
I think that's fine. I mean, certainly, yes, he could go out and get an appraisal on this piece of property if you wanted to. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's free to get an appraisal, and then that'll.
We'll go from there.
Yeah, we can go from there, just to.
All right, and Mr. Charlie would like to say something as well, Charlie.
So I think we should get a survey, because I have an easement that's gonna be in there, have electricity and the sewer line on that piece of property. It runs all the way to Newman from 98. So when you take that out of it, it's gonna make it a little bit smaller. I don't know how big the easement needs to be, it's not gonna be huge. But all that would have to be applied before you know how much land you're gonna get appraised.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
I know there's an existing, easement on there now.
Sure.
It runs from the pumping station on 98, or this station on 98, back to
Newman.
to Newman, the backside of Newman.
Yeah. And I don't know how big that is. And I've looked at the county stuff, and I'm not sure it's accurate, because it's not exactly what I remembered back 14 years ago when we did it. But to get it right, to do an appraisal, you want to know how much land. Is it an acre and a quarter? Is it an acre and a half? I don't know what it is.
In your discussions with the water department, have they got any idea where the easement is?
I mean, I know where the pipe's at. I don't know how big the easement is. I don't have a marker in the ground that says this is how much you have.
Well,
Don't worry about that, because the easement is like concurrent with the land. So it's not gonna be a piece that we're keeping, it's gonna be, as Charlie said, we need to make sure that we maintain an easement if it's existing, we need to have you grant us one. If, again, hypothetically, if whoever the owner, if we sell it, the owner needs to grant us back an easement, and we need to know exactly where it is and how big it is and everything else. And the appraiser, if you're talking to an appraiser, and we would have to get our own appraisal, double check his appraisal, but that's if things go to the next step. But the appraiser should know that yes, there is an easement affecting the property, but beyond that, don't worry, I mean, that's enough.
So.
Well, the heaviest thing is gonna be on there anyway, the lawnmower.
All right, well, then we need to get a survey first if we are considering selling.
And I would meet with the surveyor and try to mark out the area that I'm interested in.
And then get that appraised and
Correct.
come back to us and we can decide whether.
And you're wanting to, Charlie, have the entire area surveyed over there
I think we should
between,
know what we have. If
Okay.
we're gonna go out there and get it done, which we might as well go.
yeah, do the whole thing from
Let's
the
find
southern
out what we
part
have.
to the eastern, to the Newman Drive lift station, to behind the houses on Carl King.
Or the little creek that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I propose that Mr. Sykes coordinate with Charlie, get it all done. Mr. Sykes can handle his, what sounds like a smaller portion, potential.
Right.
His portion, and then the rest of it.
Hey, Charlie, let me just get contact with you, I'll give you the number.
Okay, so if we want to, I'm just trying to move things along here, we've got a big agenda. If you're interested in moving forward on this, I need a motion for a survey, to survey the property that we've just discussed here.
Make a motion to get a survey.
Okay, we have a motion for a survey by Commissioner Mathis, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Allen. Any more discussion on a survey on this water and sewer property. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. Okay, so we're just gonna move on that right now.
Thank you very much for your attention and
Thank
attention.
you, thank you, thank you. Right. Item 3, discussion of possible action concerning the special exception for residential use in the C1 zoning. And the first request is address 304 West 9th Street. And can the clerk please explain that location to us for the public record?
It's off of Avenue B. It would be the second parcel on the right next to Steiner's Oyster House.
All right, and what did P&Z recommend?
They recommend approval.
And all of your letters went out? And
Yes.
were there any comments or
No.
anything come back? Okay. Are there any other questions? The property owners are here. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Jimmy Burchett. This is Susan, my wife. We live in Marietta, Georgia now, and we brought this property hoping to bring it up to make it look good and spend a lot of time here and probably eventually retire here and spend a lot of time with my family.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve.
all right. We have a motion to approve this request for special exception.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Melander. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, that was easy.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank y'all for coming. All right, so the next item is, the address is 110 Tallahassee Street.
And that is going to be the newly renovated place across from the fire department.
On the corner of Tallahassee
Corner
and
of
Avenue A.
Avenue A, yes.
Okay. And what did P&Z recommend?
They recommended approval.
And all of your certified letters went out in the required radius? Is there any comment returned? Okay, and the property owners are here. Would you like to introduce yourself? We don't recognize you.
Make a motion to approve.
Mike and Debbie Mock, and I didn't know what I was getting into when I got off into this renovation, so.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
It does, it looks good.
This is
upgrade. Appreciate it.
Okay.
So stay on the right direction.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis, a second by Commissioner Allen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that motion carries. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay. All right, thank you all for coming. Item 4, discussion of possible action regarding the billboard on new City Hall property. And I know you all have seen that billboard, and actually the CRA put a sign on there years ago, and then after that we learned that the CRA couldn't afford to advertise, was not allowed to advertise outside the CRA district. I requested this item to be on because Ms. Bragdon called me to let me know that the lease on that billboard ends March 1st. The renewal notice will come to her at the first of the year. If the city wants to continue keeping that billboard, she will turn that renewal notice over to us. And she says the annual cost is under $400 a year, just under $400. With the Big Bend Scenic Byway, no billboards can be erected along the Big Bend Scenic Byway anymore. What we have now, what is existing, are grandfathered billboards. My advice, I would say to keep the billboard, but not to advertise for lease, because if you advertise it for lease, you'll end up possibly leasing it to a business advertising in Apalachicola or Mexico Beach or St. George Island. I would rather we keep it to advertise the city of Carrabelle, possibly partner with a chamber or something, and have a nice advertisement there, advertising the city of Carrabelle. We have another billboard that needs some work done on it at Sands Park. for that billboard. I would suggest it be used for museums or the nonprofits that want to have a place for advertising. And the TDC can also be a funding source for advertising. You know, if we come up with a promotion proposal to this. So I just want to bring this to you and let you know about the billboard and what's up with it and what do you think.
Are we talking about, I'm sorry. This is a permitted billboard through DOT.
Yes, it's permitted. It has the little
The sticker.
plaque on it, or metal plaque.
And what I was just talking to Courtney about, and I haven't researched this, but I feel like it's in the back of my mind somewhere that I've seen it before, is that the city needs to be careful about putting essentially a private billboard on a public property.
Off-site advertising. is what
Not
the
necessarily
DOT
our,
calls it.
but specific to the city, the city, let's say the city put, right in City Hall or on City Hall property or on city property, and makes an advertisement or promotional billboard for a business in town, it's the city taking sides,
Right,
And that's
and
what
that's
we
what I
said we
said.
would
that
Table this until he
Okay.
can research it.
Yeah, but to advertise the city of Carrabelle.
That's fine, we can put all kinds of signs for
Right.
public purposes.
But no, not a business.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to end up having to advertise a business in another city.
Can we just use it for city of Carrabelle?
Yeah.
Not business,
That's
but for
what
the
I-
city of Carrabelle.
And I think Commissioner Miller also wants to wait.
No, I'm listening, I'm doing
Okay,
it.
all right.
I'm just ready to
But
make a motion.
do we want to keep the billboard? We need to let Miss Bragger know so she can sign the title over to the city.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept or take that offer from Ms. Bragdon and keep that sign for public use, not private use, but public use.
And I would say.
It's grandfathered in, and if we lose it, we won't get it back.
That's the way I feel, for public use. Okay, and so we have that motion by Commissioner Millender and second by Commissioner Walden. And is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. All right, we're going to take a recess now while Kinley Horn representatives set up for their presentation, about 8 minutes. Going back to order the Carrabelle City Commission meeting. It's September 6, 2018. We're moving on into item 5, discussion and possible action concerning the Carrabelle Airport Master Plan and selection of possible options for future expansion of the Carrabelle Airport. And I just want to note, this isn't an action item. We just learned that on Tuesday when they gave their public workshop, that it's instead a presentation of the ongoing master plan. By Kinley Horn, Mr. Zach Dubois. Oh, Ms. Keegan needs his microphone turned on over here.
I don't know how far to go though, Zach, that's probably it.
You probably use this one here.
You want to extend a little further? And if not, if I need one, I can use one, but I can talk pretty well.
Is it not on? It should be. It should be.
Now try and see.
Well, from that one, you just restricted.
This is as far as this one goes.
All right, well, I'll just pop over there as needed. All right, well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me. Commissioners, again, my name is Zach DeVoe. I'm with Kinley Horn, and we're excited to be working with the Carrabelle Airport on the master plan, and as the on-call consultant here, this is our first project working with the airport, and so we are very excited to be working through this process and very excited for future development and working on that in coordination with the airport and the city. So before we get started, just wanted to offer up a few points on the airport. As recently as 2013, the FDOT Aviation and Spaceports Office in Tallahassee conducted an economic impact study of all of Florida's airports, and they found that through the projects, fuel sales, some of the operations occurring at the airport, the total impact on the local economy of the Carrabelle Airport being located here was over $650,000 annually. And I will say that data was collected in the 2011 and 2012 timeframe, so as we were kind of in the beginning phases of coming out of the recession. And so now, with the current study that is underway to update those numbers, it's anticipated that those will increase substantially, really showing a strong impact of the airport on the local community. And a few things on how things are funded out of the airport. All projects, planning, environmental, design, construction, are all 100% grant funded through the FDOT Aviation Grant Program. No local match is required for those projects. So all the funding that's coming into the airport is provided through the Aviation and Spaceports Office for development and construction projects located there. And that is also how the master plan that we are working on has been funded. Thank you, Nancy. So to get started on a project overview, next slide. The master plan, its overall purpose is to set a development guideline for the next 20 years of the airport. And that's not to say once this plan is finalized that things won't change in the next 20 years, because I think we all know that they will and can change. So we're just defining the overall plan for the future and what we're going to be working towards, but understanding that things may change in the future. And it's important to understand this long-term framework because there are state and federal requirements that go into it. There are environmental requirements that go into it. So there's a phased approach that has to be applied to a project and to all projects at the airport in order to ensure that they're done cost effectively without duplicative effort being put to any one project. The FAA recommends that a master plan be done every 5 years just to ensure that you're current with the goals of the local community at that time. And this is actually the airport's first full master plan. They've developed an airport layout plan drawing set, but never developed a full master planning study. So this is the standard process that we are following to complete the master plan. We are right now moving from the facility requirements that you see on the bottom left into alternatives. But like a lot of planning processes, it starts with data collection, understanding where we are and what we currently have, applying a forecast element to it to see where we could be or would like to be in future years, then understanding if we have the facilities to meet that demand, and then ultimately developing alternatives and a recommended airport development plan that will then go into the final report. So it's really laying out a phase structure for how the airport is going to develop. Of note, there are two things that FDOT reviews and approves as part of the master plan. One of them is the forecast, and one of them is the airport layout plan to ensure that's in compliance and we're not over-exaggerating or overstating growth, and that the development that we're proposing to accommodate that is reasonable and cost-effective from their perspective as well, so that nothing's kind of going haywire with overdevelopment where it's not really needed. Next slide. So to kind of go through some of the tasks that we've already done, as I mentioned, we have conducted a comprehensive inventory meeting with the airport, the advisory board, and some city officials, just seeing what's out there, what some of the existing environmental concerns may be, socioeconomic factors that play into it, as well as just understanding how some of the land uses surrounding the airport may be important. We heard today that there's a cell tower, or a cellular tower being proposed to go up. Understanding how the decisions like that outside the standard airport environment may affect the airport are critical. So looking at things, the big picture from land use zoning, airspace are also done in the inventory section. And you can see on the next slide, just an example, and when the report is ultimately made public, there are examples of maps where we document where things are around the airport in the local community to put a little context to the written elements of it. So I mentioned that there's a forecast element, and that is done for both based aircraft, which are the aircraft that are out in the hangars there today, as well as operations, the folks flying in and out. And so there are local operations by the based aircraft, as well as visitor or itinerant operations. And so a forecast is done on both of those. The based aircraft element of the master plan and the forecast is really critical to future development at an airport like Carrabelle Airport. It drives the hangar needs, it drives the fuel needs, and it ultimately drives some of the development that goes into an airport, such as taxiways or things like that. So understanding the base aircraft element and providing development to support increases in base aircraft, which are ultimately revenue-generating developments, is critical in that element. So you can see here is an overview of the forecasts, and there's a lot going on there. But we have the forecast for base aircraft as well as operations. And we have two proposed methodologies. One is just a standard growth rate and a combination of employment and wage growth that is predicted in the area by the census. And then the other is a derivative forecast methodology that assumes that the funding DOT is providing can and will be used to develop hangars and that those will be able to be filled. So it assumes that the funding that's out there can and will be successful in being applied and development will continue to occur at the airport. So following the forecasting element, you look at the demand capacity and facility needs, so making sure that what you're proposing in the forecast can be met by the current facilities at the airport. So if we're predicting an increase in base aircraft, having hangars out there to accommodate that is critical as revenue-generating facilities. And so if you go to the next slide, this is a broad overview of the facility needs as we have seen them based on our analysis so far. And this is a long list of short, medium, and very long-term projects that represent really an overall suite of projects that could happen in the next 20 years. These will not be all in the next single year or even 5 years, but this is really a broad look at all the projects that may be included. And so in order to accommodate those, we're starting to identify some alternatives. And these are ultimately, once we get a little more direction from the airport, the advisory board, and FDOT, when we have a finalized set of alternatives, we'll be coming back to the board for recommendation on the preferred alternative, which is then the set development plan for the airport. And so this really looks to make sure that what we're proposing can be met and accommodated and fit within the existing the existing land within the airport property. And so there are two primary elements to look at for development. The one that's existing, this would be developing on the airport property with the current approach. I won't get into the super details on this, but it essentially there are based on the approach that you have at the airport, which allows different aircraft with different technological installations, I guess, to come in and out of the airport. You have different widths of protected areas, and so under the current approach, which is visual, you have over 210 feet of space on the edge of the runway to the edge of the property line to develop additional hangars or any facilities for that matter. And you can see that noted in the green area on the map above. If one of the projects that's being proposed is to enhance the approach to a non-precision GPS-based approach, which would allow for more aircraft in worse weather conditions to access the airport. But in that instance, the developable area around the airport would be reduced, but you would increase the overall operational abilities and capabilities of the airport. So it increases the operational efficiency in some manners, but also decreases some of it in another manner. There is a third option. We don't have it here today. It is actually what we are meeting with FDOT on in a few weeks. But proposing a shift of the runway center line to accommodate the GPS approach as well as all the development that we propose. So that is one we are waiting to vet to see if they will even humor that before we bring that forward as an alternative. So those are just two examples of alternatives we're evaluating. As far as next steps, we're kind of right in the middle of the process. You can see there doing the meetings on the facility requirements and alternatives. Again, as those are finalized, we will come back for board approval on those. And then the next steps are really, once we have that recommendation, we will develop the plan around the final recommended alternative, develop the ALP, which must be approved by FDOT in order to receive any of their state funding, and to receive funding for a project, that project must be shown in the ALP, which is why you see such a large list of projects listed, because we want to have everything possible that could come up so that we are able to get funding for the airport out there. And so looking to finish up early next year with final approvals and ultimately get it adopted here locally at the City Commission. So And again, my name is Zach DeVoe. I'm happy to answer any questions now. Happy to give anyone my card. You can call, email me. I forgot to mention earlier, joined by Macy Frick up here as well. And then John Sewell could not make it tonight, but he is our the overall project quality control manager and reviewer. So any questions or comments before we head out?
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Zach.
All right, yep.
All right, we appreciate your presentation and coming down tonight. We had a good conversation on the workshop the other day, and you got my input from that, and we talked quite a bit. I want you to recognize that they developed the logo with the rope and the airplane flying through, and they picked the rope up from our gateway sign. So we appreciate that. Yeah, that's just a little special touches, tender loving care. Okay? And any other? Yeah, see the airplane up there?
Oh,
They're
I
gonna
was
show-
down in the
there-
room.
There you go, there's the,
Okay.
with the words Carrabelle Airport underneath.
I'm with you now.
Question mark for
Yeah. We thank you for your presentation tonight. And as you know, I mentioned the other day that I would like to see, and it's in your capital projects list, your wish list, right? Fuel tank upgrade.
Yep.
Okay. And partial run, taxiway at least.
Absolutely.
So, all right, and expand the hangars. The new hangars that are out there now are expandable. We run that recently.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you so much. All right then, and if, let's see what we have going here next. Old business, and you all can go ahead and break down. I think we can discuss around you. Don't let us bother you. Discussion of possible action concerning proposing the lease of the Carrabelle Industrial Building from Martin Marine. And so we have Mr. Martin Ben Baruch here again before us this evening, and he's got another proposal for us. I hope that he's talked to some commissioners. He has talked with me and Courtney. And so we want to speak a moment. Sir?
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. It's more like it's really request than a proposal.
Okay.
Well, the first one is to increase the square footage area that I already have in to another 6,400 square foot addition. And the second one is to increase the lease term.
And so you increase it to, we have 6,000, but you all measured and it would include the
Well,
rest.
the addition that I interested in is another 6,400 square foot.
Okay.
It was 180 by 36, and I'll come back out with a tape measure and we can look at that together. But that was the dimensions that I got was 180 by 36, which was 6,480 square foot.
Okay, and that includes the restroom?
No, that was without the restroom.
Oh, without the restroom? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not interested in those bathrooms. Right?
Okay.
They're not functional anyhow.
Okay.
All right. Well, the second request is to increase the lease term, but now on a monthly basis, which is very hard to run a business in that like up in the air situation. So I would like to have a 1-year lease if possible. And I'd like to take it effect on October 1st, which would be enough time to clear up the area there.
Is there
okay, Courtney?
Is there debris? Do you have some debris or just?
Yeah,
items,
that
junk items?
whole section where I want to be in is like full of like
Junk.
junk.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
which Miss Courtney already, like, I discussed it with Miss Courtney, and she said
I will
she's
get a
gonna bring a
dumpster
dumpster
out
out there and,
Okay.
take care of that.
If we end up leasing. So right now, he's leasing,
Right now, he's leasing, I calculated 77 by 36, and Mr. Martin thought it was 75 by 35, so we may need to go back out and measure, but approximately 2,772 square foot. And then this would be an additional 6,480, bringing his total square footage to 9,252, or thereabout. And I'll come back out with you, and we'll pull that tape measure up again and make sure.
You said how much a year?
Square footage was the total would be 9,252
square feet, and then at 75 cents a foot?
That's 75 cents a foot a year.
Yes, so what would the price per year be?
$6,939 or $578.25 a month.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
That, it might be a little bit different because you're gonna go and measure again. to get
We'll
more
measure
precise.
it again to make sure we have the accurate.
Yeah, but it's pretty accurate, I believe, because like, it's a little narrow and a little longer.
Well, I will say it does provide some activity out there and some security, and you've got the utilities going, and it's good to have, we don't like, just like I mentioned earlier, our hangars are sitting empty, and it's not good to have buildings sit empty, so it's, I think it's okay. I don't have a problem with it. The lease term, that's hard to decide on, because you know, when we've talked about this, you know we're trying to lease the entire building.
Mhm.
So I'll let.
Yeah, I understand, but like, you see, the thing is, like, my first proposal that I did was based on an idea that when I grow, the city grows, and I'm growing already. Okay, where first I leased that little section there, and now I want another 64,000 square foot. I mean, 61 square foot. I wish I would have done that much, but yeah, and I want to make sure that you all understand that I'm not doing any boat storage at this point. Okay? Now that's my third request, will be to get a motion to start working on getting the right zoning in place.
Are they discussing that at the P&Z zoning, all boat storage just anywhere in general all over the whole city? So they're discussing it already?
Yeah, okay. So when that will be in place, so then maybe I'll be considering to do boat storage again, but we'll see that. We'll see about that. Okay? Right now, I just want extra space to work on boats.
So
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to approve for a one-year lease term?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We have a motion by, we know the motion by Commissioner Matthews to approve for an additional 6,480 square feet approximately for a one-year term effective October 1st. Do we have a second?
Can we say something now?
Well, we have to have a second to have a discussion. I have to control myself.
Okay, keep it straight.
Okay. So, I mean, we can have a second, that doesn't mean we have to, we can amend the motion.
I'll second it for the matter of discussion.
Okay, all right, discussion.
All right. I talked to Mr. Martin, Tony has, and I don't know whoever. And we glad to have him there. Rather have him there than nobody there. The only problem I got with is the lease term. If we give him a year's lease, then next month we have somebody come in and want to lease the whole building. What we're going to do with Mr. Martin? Are we going to have to wait a year till his lease is up before we can do anything with this building? It's not that I'm against him, no means. If we got nobody to come in and do something with that building, all the power to it. I did talk to Keisha the other day about it, and that was her concern, is if we done 6 months, it wouldn't be no big deal, because if somebody come in, it's gonna take us 6 months to go through the process. I talked to Mr. Martin about this when I went over there. He didn't think that 6 months would do him no good. He needed the whole year because he's running the business. But that's just my opinion, and we'll go from there.
Okay, but that's
They're knocking the door down to get that place.
I know.
I agree with you, Mr. Mathis, I agree with you.
I know it, I do feel like the same thing, if someone comes in next month, yes, it would take 6 months really to get them in, but, then I agree with Commissioner Mathis, they're knocking the doors down so they can get in there.
I'm tired of coming to me. I agree with you.
Well, let me answer you to this. I'll be open for a negotiation. If something like this opens up and somebody is knocking on our doors to lease the whole building, I'll be willing to negotiate and shorten the term.
That's what I wanted to hear.
All
That's
right.
fine.
So we could have that, caveat put into the lease agreement with them.
What's typical on something like that would still be a period of time that Martin wants, say 90 days, 120 days. You can still give him an extended period of time to move, move around. And Courtney was just explaining to me the layout of the portion that, and saying that it is somewhat compatible with wall it off, someone else can take 50,000 square feet, not interfere. We talked to one other tenant that seemed interested, but kind of faded away, the little custom homes. They were talking about cohabitating without any objection. So it made it pretty flexible. And we could have a long enough period of time, and you can talk to Courtney about it, certainly talk to me about it, that gives you some, because I understand, you're in business, can't expect you to be out there in a month.
And
If it really came to that, I doubt if I've ever come to that, but yeah, some period of time that you say, hey, this is reasonable, 90, 120 days.
And I would agree with that, especially after Mr. Martin said what he just did. He and I talked about it, and I had the same concern about, getting tied into the 1 year. But from what he just said, and all the other things that's been said, I'd be willing to go along with a 1 year. And then if we get into something, he's amicable to discussing it and get back into something. I looked at the area that he wants, and like Courtney said, it's all on the same side where he's currently at. And if someone else, if we were able to lease the entire building, they could actually come in and get started and not interfere with him, and we could work through that.
It would interfere with them either way. So, and I'm very familiar with
So my second stands to the motion.
Okay. And then I would just say also that this lease agreement would be with Martin Marine. Martin, no subleasing.
No subleasing.
And you would not have the authority to allow others to use any space, any additional space in that building,
That's correct.
That would need to come, if any other space in that building needs to be used, that needs to come before the commission.
Of course.
Okay.
And no boat storage.
Yeah.
Just for repair.
You're repairing boats. Okay, so we have any more discussion?
One more question.
Okay.
When I was over talking to Mr. Martin, the place looks like a desert over there. I mean, it's grown up.
I know it is.
Who's gonna maintain it? Are we gonna maintain it, the city crews, or is he gonna maintain it? That's all we need to get
And
this
that's a
straight.
good question, and I have asked now
And
two
I have
times.
requested that they go over and clean it initially now, whether he,
We can have-
decide if they'll want him to maintain it from here on out, but they will go over and clean that.
Yeah, it's grown up pretty bad.
I know it, I reported that at one meeting that we had, it's thigh high up there, I think it was August the 21st.
That in the
And we do have a tractor with bush hog, which is the water and sewer department using right now, that we could send over there to rough it in, then have our crew come in and clean it up. 'Cause it does need, it looks like there's nobody there.
I mean, you can have
I
snakes.
say we clean it up, and then after that point, if he wants to live in the trees, let him live there. This ain't trees, this is. Well, you know what I'm saying.
But it's the bush over there right now.
Right, right.
It's a jungle.
Now, my,
Nature's gonna take it back where it looks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's good.
I agree. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my notice, in which we've got a tractor right there at the airport that can do it.
Now,
But anyway, I don't think that Mr. Martin, this is my opinion, should be responsible for the entire maintenance if he's only leasing a small portion of it.
I agree.
And I feel like we should be until we lease it to someone. And if and now he should be responsible to maintain that area over there where he's at. But the rest of it, until he leases that entire building, that's just my opinion, is we're responsible for it.
And let us know if there's any problem, you know, with the building. You know, that's why it's good to have an occupant in there. You know, if there's a problem, a leak, or, you know, whatever it may be. But while we're trying to lease that building, we need to keep the grounds maintained.
Well, I agree, and that's what I said. I'm with you guys. I noticed that when I was over there visiting with Mr. Martin, is it needs to be done now, and Courtney can take care of that.
Well, I asked for it on August the 22nd.
Okay.
And I asked for it again, and I think Martin has asked for it, and Courtney has asked for it.
Okay.
let's get it done.
We just need to see it is done, I guess.
Yeah. All right,
That's
we're
my
still,
part. You get it done. You wait till I get a hold of that creek. There you go, there you go.
all right then, as discussion over, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. Okay,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay. All right, and here we go. Item 2, discussion of possible action concerning boat launch fees. And who requested this? Is the person in here this evening? Was that you?
That's me.
Okay, would you like to come forward, sir? You've had quite a wait. We appreciate you waiting, and please tell us your name and your residence.
I am Clarence Thomas on the tax rolls, and
Clarence?
Clarence E. Thomas
Okay.
on the tax roll, and go by Buddy Thomas, pretty much here in the community. My concern, what I wanted to voice is a group of people that were in my category that was totally overlooked by the commission, I think. That we're basically property owners here. I've owned property here for a little over 3 years at the Sands, one of the units at the Sands. And I contribute to the community. I can come into Carrabelle more years than I'd like to think about sometimes. But I contribute here. I keep a boat at the marina, pay taxes to substantial taxes on that property there. So I think I'm in the category of a resident. I probably spent since I retired, half or better of my time out here. The only thing I don't have is a Franklin County driving license. That's safe. But considering where I am and the group, and I'm representing myself, not anybody else, but the group of people that I'm in that own property, pay taxes, go to the grocery store here, you know, just on and on the things that we do and contribute to the economy of Carrabelle and Franklin County. I think we need, or I need more, in my opinion, more recognition and not having to pay the fees of someone that's in here, comes in and unloads the boat for one trip and then comes back 6 months later or whatever. But served the country. I was in Vietnam, and the whole 9 yards. I've done my whole part, I think, in providing for this country and this community. And my opinion is, I think the commission was a little short-sighted in recognizing the group that fund a big portion of this county and in this city, and giving us recognition into the fact that we should be considered equal to a resident of this county. And requesting that we be put in the same status as a resident of the county. Did I say that right?
You said it right. Now, you know you're not the first person to bring this before us with the same complaint. I understand what you said. You pay taxes here. I officer, not a resident. When we done this for residents only, but get the pass and not pay the yearly or the.
But we contribute as much as a resident does to this community, and we're supportive of the community, pay the laws, our money spends here just like that, and it helps pay the operation of the city, just like a resident does. The only thing we don't have is a driver's license that says Franklin County.
And that's.
And a homestead.
That's true. I guess you're referring to your property taxes, which your property taxes do contribute to the operation of the city. But, and we did consider property taxes at one point when we were, during our discussion. But property taxes were not the main consideration. The main consideration was looking for a revenue source to maintain the city ramps that had become in a very bad, deteriorated condition. There was essentially no parking, and the boat users, the ramp users, were complaining constantly to staff and to myself, I don't know about the commissioners, about the condition of the ramps. And our general revenues general fund revenues would no longer fund maintenance of the ramps. So we looked around to all of the other counties nearby, Gulf, Wakulla, Franklin, and all the ramps to see what they do to maintain. They charge a user service fee, and that's what this is. It's a fee for use of that service. Not all the taxpayers of Carrabelle and Franklin County use that service. That fee is not compulsory. Taxes are compulsory, means required by law. And it's not the same as a tax. It is a fee for use of that boat ramp. And the boat owners have several choices to use different ramps all throughout Franklin County or in other counties. We don't have a choice whether or not we want to pay taxes. I pay taxes. I own 2 properties in Carrabelle, but I don't have a boat. My husband doesn't have a boat. And we discussed whether or not people that pay taxes want to have their millage rate increase so that we could afford to maintain these services. And we just worked. We tried to develop a program that was similar to the Apalachicola boat ramp, who charges, they charge $10 a day to all non-city and non-county residents. They do not have a discounted annual rate. And then we look to the Lanark Boat Ramp, who has a $15, it's a nonprofit. The Lanark Boat Club is a nonprofit organization. They have a $15 membership fee, and then they charge a $10 fee, daily fee, once you're a member, or a $100 annual fee. So we put those 2 programs together after we looked at Gulf County and Wakulla County. So, and then we developed an ordinance that reflected that these funds that are earned off of that, they're exclusively earmarked for maintenance of the boat ramps and the associated nearby facilities. And we are actually opening a bank account separate from our general fund, and those monies cannot be used for anything else but maintenance of the boat ramps and the nearby facilities, the restroom that everyone uses, and the fish cleaning sink, and the water bill at the fish cleaning sink, and our taxes that are compulsory and required by law. They go to maintain our highways and roadways, street lights, public works, police department, administration, and we all have to pay that. But we all don't have to use the boat ramps, and that's how we came about that process that we have.
My contention, though, is that I should be placed in the category, people in this category should be paid just as well as, just because I don't have a Franklin County driver's license, I should be in that category because I'm contributing just as much as a resident is to the use of the.
And we appreciate that. Why wouldn't you change your residency here to Carrabelle?
I grew up in Pelham, Georgia, and I liked it.
You like it
But
there?
I do spend most of my time, or close to half of my time since I retired down here.
Are you homesteaded here?
No, it's not. So, and you know,
But I still contribute
How
to
we
this.
do?
We understand.
As
And
much as any resident does in
If
this
not more.
community.
yeah.
Yeah.
We understand that.
And I was a second homeowner, my husband and I, since 1995 until 2008 with a house on the river. And believe me, we paid some taxes.
Yeah.
And we contributed a lot here and volunteered here while we lived in Atlanta, working.
Well-
And we did not have homestead exemption, and we didn't have residency here, and we accepted that fact.
I understand that. I think it should make some consideration for the fact that we are contributing.
Mayor, I'll just comment that I respect his position, but I feel like that we have looked at all situations, and we did look at people that live here part-time. I feel like we've been very fair with it, and I felt that way then, and I still feel that way, and I feel like we should maintain what we currently do. We get a lot of compliments from people that are part-time residents here and non-residents here and residents here. There's a tremendous amount of compliments with the progress that we
I
have
like the
made.
atmosphere here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We get a tremendous amount of comments, positive comments of the positive that's come out of it so far. So I'm in a position to just maintain it as is.
And I want to say, you know, I'm thinking back and thinking back seriously. We have had 4 really complaints, like your complaint. There have been 4 that I have had. So, I mean, compared to all of the comments and people that are happy with it, that don't mind, that want the boat ramps maintained in a safe condition. And actually, if we can't maintain them in a safe condition, we would have to close them down. And we want to be able to maintain public access to the water. That's something that the state of Florida wants to do, and all the counties and cities. And if you'll go over to Wakulla County, I don't believe there's one ramp that you can use in Wakulla County without having to pay a fee. Whether you live there or not, they charge their residents the same as
Well,
everybody.
again, that's my opinion, and I
And
think
we
those-
appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
We do.
Yes.
And Mr. Thomas, we especially appreciate you sitting through this grueling meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want you to come back.
And one other thing I'll share with you, and I shared with a group a while back when we were considering this, and just as conversation, when those of us that live here in Florida, in Carrabelle particularly, own places in Georgia and Alabama, and we go up there and deer hunt, we feel you pain. Because we pay that non-resident stuff as well.
And I pay a non-resident
Yes, sir.
fishing license down here too.
We feel you
Appreciate
pain.
it.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on into item 3 under no old business, not no business, but old business. It's 9:05. Discussion of possible action concerning debt collection proposal by attorney and what is owed by Dr. Grantham, and possible eviction for non-payment of rent. And we'll ask Mr. Hartman to please review his documents and presentation that he circulated out for the commissioners.
All right, what I tried to do is just make it very simple, is that what we have, what you have in your package is a complaint, a demand letter, and really the summons that would go with the complaint. If no favorable response is received from the demand letter. Attached to the complaint are all the backup documents referenced in the complaint, and it's a 2-count complaint for recovery of rent and eviction in the alternative. And what we've got attached to the complaint is the eligibility and usage agreement for 2006. The checks that were received by the city but held in 2017 and 18. We have our demand that was sent to him back on August 9 of 2017 in the amount of $9,000. And then a breakdown of basically accounting for hangar 4, which is the hangar that we have him overdue on rent for, breakdown of amounts, basically totaling back due rent of $12,110, as discussed at prior meetings. So that's the legal package. And what's going on there, as far as the letter, is what's typical here is I would send him a copy of the letter with the complaint attached, so he knows it's coming. And I put the dates in there, which are, would send the letter out tomorrow, and that we would file the complaint by September 20. If we've been unable, and I'm using this, again, lawyer language here, but to move forward on an amicable resolution of the matter, because we can expect, I think, maybe not, I mean, hopefully he would just send us a check for what we're claiming is owed, but I expect, because of the history on this, to have some communication with him would be ideal, and I will have, I hope, some proposal from him. And that will, of course, be I'll run it by staff first, and then it will come to the commission for consideration and resolution. But if I don't hear anything from him, and he makes no offer, then we're just going to file suit and move ahead. And then in court, there will be a determination of what he owes.
All right, so let me ask this. If you hear from him, I just want to clarify, there may be a proposal, possibly, or he may write a check, or there may be a proposal, one or the other, we don't know. If you don't hear from him, then you would go ahead and file for court.
Yep.
But the agenda item talked about eviction, and there's a little concern about evicting a expensive aircraft. You know, would it? What? I mean, do you lock that up instead? I mean, lock the doors on it, or when does that happen? When does something?
And talking about concerns, I mean, I was directed to proceed with eviction. I was concerned not to. I mean, he owes money.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. We had 2 checks from him that he paid for rent moving forward. He owes rent going back, which that's the part would be the controversy. But my marching orders, I believe, will include an eviction count.
Yeah, the word eviction was said.
So, and that's fine, because if he doesn't pay, he needs to go. As far as seizing people's property, we need to be very careful on that. Yeah.
And then how do you evict an aircraft?
What we would do is this: if we move ahead on eviction, then we would get what's called a writ of possession at the end of it. And this is, I mean, again, I'll just talk you through it, but I think it would be very unlikely, just as you say, to have someone leave behind, because that's what usually happens. When you evict somebody, sometimes they'll leave stuff behind, and that's why you see junk out at the curb when there's an eviction. The landlord, which would be us, gets a writ of possession, which allows us to literally go there with the sheriff on with 24 hours notice and pile up everything that's in there out of the curb. It does not give us the right to take anything. It just gives us the right to take possession of the property, and by doing so, we can remove the property from it. But literally, and I'm saying it with a smile here, that we push it, we clear everything out of there and push the plane off of our property onto like a road right away or something.
I'm gonna go get it.
That's no, you can't. I mean, that's the thing. No, that's what gets landlords in trouble. Is they start grabbing and stuff. I think that's just so far fetched.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But we would get the right to possess that property.
I don't think the gate is wide enough.
Yeah, it would be really crazy. All right.
But Dan, how does that relate? When I was in mechanical and I worked on your vehicle, as long as I held that vehicle, I could put a labor lien on it, and I had it until you satisfied the claim.
Yep.
If I gave it to you, then it's up to me and you to fight it out.
And I agree. And you gotta, think of the difference is you did labor on that vehicle. So you made improvements on that vehicle. And that gave you. I agree. And that gives you, under the by statute, certain rights to hang on to that vehicle, or put a lien rights on that vehicle. What we entered into, best case with him, was a agreement to lease, take possession of a hangar. So we didn't get lien rights. We didn't do any improvements to his plane or anything like that.
Well,
Go out and prove that plane.
I watch a lot of times these locker wars.
Oh.
They come in and bid the locker off.
Storage.
Wars, yeah.
I saw that.
Do they just do that in one state? I see them going to a lot of different states. We'll just take the plane and auction it off. Or whatever.
This is the other thing.
We may not want it, unless we look at it.
I've been through a lot of these, and this is another idea, along the lines of what you're talking about. There is the possibility, right? If someone leaves something in your property, there is a statutory process called under abandonment of property. But you gotta send letters and go through a bunch of stuff. If it ever comes to that, we can go through it.
We're doing that right now. We ain't getting no results.
I wouldn't expect anyone to leave an aircraft.
No, I don't think that.
I feel sure if it comes to that, the aircraft will be gone. I mean, regardless of who it is.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave $100,000 back for 10, 20.
Does the airplane never leave? I mean, could we lock it up? If it did leave, could we go lock the storage locker up in?
I would tie a chain to it. Take the
It just
battle off.
flies off for the afternoon, we could lock it up and park it back in there?
Y'all need an airplane?
No, I don't know. I mean, truly think of this, and again, is like rent apartment, whatever else. It's like, you got self-help that'll get you in trouble.
I don't think
Did you
we're
see
at
me
that.
coming down the road without
I don't
wings?
think we are. I think that we should, my opinion is to let Mr. Hartman go ahead and send this letter, send this package. This will be the fourth notice, because Miranda sent 2 notices last June and July. And then you sent a notice in August that you have here. Miranda's got return receipts from certified letters that she sent, one to the business and one to the home. And they signed for it, but she didn't hear anything back from it. And she sent a similar style past due notices as you have included in your packet. And so your past due notice would be the 3rd that you have in your packet from August the 9th, 2017. So this will be the 4th notice. We have to serve 3 notices.
Yes, did I understand you right to say that the amount of back oath was 12,000 something?
That's the attachments to the complaint. That's our initial position, yeah.
The amount is, here on his exhibits, C, is 9,000 here.
That's a notice a year ago.
There's 2 years where right here we've received checks. They're void now.
Yeah, they're not credited. There's no credit for those. Yeah, shown. And remember, just
So those
I
two
don't want to
checks,
rehash history here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
those 2 checks, which they're void now, would have been $4,800.
Ballpark, yep.
And
Now that's actually total.
That's right.
Can't remember if they're both 2,400 or one's.
And they're actually, that is included in this 12,000 asbestos.
That's what I was getting at, yeah.
Right.
Because I remember some of the things that Dan has told us already.
But if you simply just look through this spreadsheet here, just simply look through the spreadsheet and count the months that are not paid, it's easy to calculate.
I did.
Okay. So you've got, 37 months, I believe, one way and 44 months another way, because there is evidence where Mr. Grantham didn't write a check back some years back.
Well, Dan, when you write him, you tell him there's one crazy commissioner go take his plane.
He doesn't even know how to fly. He can fly out of here.
I'm gonna take wings off and take down the road.
Now,
No, but the history, the reason, in my opinion, and I haven't talked to anybody other than Charles Curran during the time we were settling with Mark Nobles, is remember they kept trying to, or let's say they, Mark Nobles kept trying to include Grantham's back rent in the settlement negotiations. We required it to be separated. I think all the notices were sent during that period of time. So I think there was, I'm not guessing at this, but I think on their side of it, grouping Mark with Dr. Grantham, is that they had hope that they could resolve both at that time. So
Yes,
that's, I
and
think that's why we didn't get responses.
You're correct on that. All 3 notices were served or sent just before we began the negotiations with Mr. Knowles. It was still unsettled at that point.
So I think that's why we didn't get a response, and then we demanded that they be separated. They did finally separate them and resolve things with Mark Knowles.
So, do we want to then go ahead and move forward? Do we need a motion to let Mr. Hartman move forward with his package as is, or do we want to suggest changes, or what?
He's the attorney, let him figure that out himself. We can't help it.
All right, we need to provide Mr. Hartman with direction, though, correct?
Right, I would ask 2 things. One, that you say, if you have any changes to what I gave you, tell me, but otherwise, I'm sending that, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send a letter with the complaint attached. My experience says, hey, 75% chance I get contacted by Dr. Grantham or his lawyer, and they tell me we're willing to pay X, whatever the number is. Then that is gonna put a stop to things, and I'm bringing it to you at the next meeting, or a special meeting, or whatever. So you all can consider it, and I'll get it to you ahead of the meeting, I'll send an email to Courtney saying this is what it is, and she'll send it out. So this will, if they are negotiating with us to resolve this back to amount, then it could stretch out, and it won't be a lawsuit, which is, again, that's talked all about lawsuits and,
Really,
my
I
feelings
think,
on it.
to me, that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
Where, a lawsuit?
No,
Oh, I was
negotiate.
gonna say, I'd rather resolve this thing.
Yes,
And
resolve.
hopefully, we can get a good tenant going and get this thing behind us.
Right, we want to
Exactly,
move
yes.
forward, but yes, negotiating. They need to somehow, if they contact you, be notified that if they want, this is my opinion, if they want to continue to lease that with Carrabelle Airport, they're going to have to sign a rental agreement, a lease agreement. Just that tenant usage or whatever, that's not a lease agreement.
Yep.
And
It is.
and the rent has raised, it raised in January. Can't tell you what it is offhand.
No problem.
Okay. All right, are there any, do you all suggest any changes? Okay, do you want us to motion for you to send the letter?
Please.
All right, so we need a motion for Mr. Hartman to send the letter with complaint to Dr. Franklin.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Millinger.
I have a question.
Okay.
Dan, in your correspondence that you're sending now, does it mention eviction?
No, but it will have the complaint, I say no, I don't think it does, but I have the complaint attached, so, and it does. So he's gonna see, if he reads, if he gets past the first 3-4 pages, he'll see that in the complaint.
Well, my only thought here, you're the attorney, we've got to follow your direction from the legal standpoint, is trying to, the language be more amicable
And you've got a copy of the letter, it's simply 2 paragraphs, and I can read
I
it
did.
quickly out loud. Is it does not mention eviction, it does talk about the attached complaint, and it just closes with, I've been directed to file the complaint if we've been unable to move forward towards amicable resolution. Pretty plain letter, it's not, the complaint is to stick, the letter's to carry.
the reason why I say that, I'm still in hopes that we can resolve it in a civil manner, and we can keep the attendant and move forward.
Yep.
Yes.
No problem.
Okay.
Where does he live?
I agree.
I'm sending it to his, I believe it's an office address in Carrabelle City.
All right, so then we have, any further discussion? We have a motion by Commissioner Mathis, a second by Commissioner Millinger. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that motion carries. All right. we'll look forward to hearing back from you, Mr. Hartman. Then we have at 9:22, it's item 4, discussion of possible action concerning city election matters. And since it's so late, and this is a very important agenda item that we need to seriously consider because it would be a possible amendment to the charter, I would ask for this workshop. It was tabled at last meeting, but I would request that we table it again and schedule ourselves a workshop or special meeting for further discussion on this topic.
I move to table.
Okay. We have a motion to table by Commissioner Allen.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Millender. Should we schedule ourselves we're in discussion now, a workshop or a special meeting for this item?
I would suggest a meeting. I know how I feel on it already, but, I mean, it's up to the board.
Right, I know how I feel on it as well.
I mean, if there's new information, I'm going to listen to it. Anyway, I would say a special meeting where we can take action. And we're really not in a hurry, we've got 2 years, but we don't want to wait 2 years.
If you haven't voted on the table, then certainly,
Yeah.
some of you that made up your mind, may want to talk about it now.
So, yes.
So we need to look at, we're going to try to schedule a special meeting here. We could do that. Are we having a special meeting on October 25th? Is that a special meeting that we scheduled?
That's what I wrote down.
Okay, why don't we do that? Because we can just do it on October 25th, have two discussions. Would that be all right then?
Sure.
And then the attorney will be here October the 25th. So that's quite a bit of time from now, to give everyone time to think about it, and we'll maybe take some action on that. So can I have a motion then? We've tabled, have a motion for table, but can Commissioner Allen amend his motion? Can you amend the motion?
Yes.
Okay. For a special meeting on October 25th. And will you amend
My
your
second will be amended.
Is there any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that.
Okay, and Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Good meeting.